One perfect math rock. The marble and the mutilation hobo. It's so good already. D&D night at the friendly local game store, and a new face joins us in a one-shot with some regulars. The newcomer is, well, a neckbeard, straight out of Central Casting. Heavy set, with wild facial hair, ball cap on backwards. Oh, this is the worst. Wearing a t-shirt with some hipster slogan that doesn't quite cover his gut, but hey, we don't judge. We're all geeks here, and all of us are at least a little bit awkward. It happens. Neckbeard rolls up a rogue, and immediately tries to get a 5-finger discount from a shopkeeper. When the shopkeep inevitably catches him, Neckbeard says, he's gonna kill the shopkeeper, and some commoners milling around for the XP. Already, it's gone so far off the rails. He's reminded that this is a one-shot, and we won't be gaining any levels. Oh, he says. Oh, well, then I'll just kill him for practice. That's not how any of this works. DM, of course, shuts this down in the name of getting on with the one-shot, and the party moves on, with the neckbeard grumbling a bit about player agency. Yeah, but we don't want to stand here and kill a bar full of patrons. We want to complete the one-shot campaign. So weird. Yeah, great start. Once they get to the adventure, Neckbeard turns out to be the worst kind of murder hobo. He jumps to roll initiative at every opportunity, brags constantly about his damage numbers, bickers over loot, grouses when somebody else gets the kill, fudges dice rolls, complains that he's being singled out when the DM insists on rolling dice for him, and only him. He whines that PvP isn't allowed, misreads his character sheet, and the list goes on and on. No, please, really, do go on. I love stuff like this. PvP, I guess it can be cool if everybody agrees to it, but he's just out here to snatch some wigs for absolutely no reason. I mean, I know the reason. It's because he has no control in his actual life. Anyways, 2 hours in, the whole table is sick of Neckbeard's BS. The party enters a small room, suspiciously empty except for a small, perfectly round pearl, sitting on a velvet cushion atop a small pedestal. Oh boy, what do you think our intelligent rogue is going to do? Neckbeard, of course, being the rogue, checks the room for traps. He rolls a natural 20, and the DM reports that there are no traps in the room. Before anybody else can make a move, Neckbeard says, grab the treasure! The DM says there's a sound like a clap of thunder as Neckbeard's character vanishes into thin air. Well, that's one way to solve it, isn't it? The party's wizard steps forward to examine the pearl, carefully and without touching it. One Arcana check later, Wizard determines that the pearl is actually a warp marble, an old-school wondrous item which traps the first person who touches it in an extra-dimensional space inside the marble. You know the DM pulled this one out of nowhere. Is that actually in the one-shot? I swear it's not. He just solved the problem in a very interesting way. Creative problem solving is not just for players anymore. DM asks Wizard what he's gonna do to free the Neckbeard, and with a big smile, Wizard replies, absolutely nothing. Oh, it's so good. Neckbeard gets mad and stomps off while the rest of the table is busy laughing. Neckbeard would try his hand at being a DM, but that is a story for another day. Also wanted to say, if you haven't subscribed or liked the video yet, this is your reminder to do so. Let's check out the next part. Real D&D, with the quotes and everything. I said the second part of this story was a story for another day. Well, by popular demand, it seems that day is today. Oh, blessed we are. So after getting laughed out of a one-shot, Neckbeard returned to the friendly local game shop to try his hand at DMing. Bro, if you're incapable of being a player, please don't be a DM. He hangs up a sign-up sheet and he gets 7 players for a new DM. Oh boy. On game night, he arrives fashionably late, greets everyone and starts setting up his notes, DM screen, etc. Somebody asks about session 0. He scoffs and takes out a small wooden sign, like the kind you would see on a C-suite exec's desk. D&D table, it says. Wow, this guy's got all the accoutrement, doesn't he? What are you doing? He places this sign in the center of the table. That's what we're playing, he says. Dungeons and Dragons. That's all you have to know. So no session 0 then? Character creation is brisk. He doesn't care about backstories, and he tells one player to just leave that part blank. To be fair, he does let players make whatever characters they want, aside from confining them to the player handbook. That's good, that's all above board. He snickers when somebody builds a ranger, but he doesn't shut anybody down. Game starts with the player characters at the entrance to a dark castle. A lich is somewhere in the dungeons beneath the castle, and the players have to find and kill him. Why? Someone asks. Because he's a lich, says the Neckbeard. What do you think? Are you presuming that I don't know that I have to go for the phylactery? He just probably hid the phylactery in some, like, super clever place that nobody will look. Yeah, bro, because it's my first time playing D&D too, okay? So if you guessed that Neckbeard's campaign was just gonna be a meat grinder, well, you're correct. Oh, how correct you are. 2 player characters die in the second combat. Neckbeard's response is to hand the players fresh character sheets and told them to roll up new characters while the party continues. I guess today we're playing some Edge Max Death Grind. Just like that, one of the players asks. Broke level 1s can't afford raised dead. Welcome to Dungeons and Dragons. Bro, ain't you a first-time DM? I don't know if you should be acting all high and mighty. I know everything about this game, yeah, except for how to construct an engaging campaign. Later on, another character trips a trapped chest and gets burned to a crisp. Should've let the rogue check it out first, Neckbeard says smugly. The rogue does check out the next chest and fails his disarm roll, dying to a poisoned needle. Wow, so fun. Characters that I don't dare get attached to at all. I enjoy a good dungeon crawl, but come on, give me some stakes, you know? So, by now, the first 2 that have died have now rejoined the party, their new characters rescued from prison cells within the castle cellar, but the party is now without a rogue, and the Neckbeard just does not let up with the traps. Better be careful, is all he says. He doesn't let up with the combat either. At one point, low on spells, the party asks if they can take a long rest. Neckbeard says they can withdraw back to town to rest and resupply, but they'll have to face a random encounter on the way back. He also rolls random encounters if the party spends too long dilly-dallying in one room or another. Dilly-dallying. He really just doesn't want anybody to roleplay. This campaign is a nightmare already. You started out with way too many players at 7, but I'm pretty sure you keep this up, you're gonna end up with 0. It doesn't even sound fun. For a meat grinder dungeon, it's not terribly unfair, but the Neckbeard is uncompromising and dismissive and just plain rude to his players. 2 players leave before the second session. See, I told you, the culling, leaving the party without a rogue. Again, Neckbeard says, they can either pick up an NPC hireling who will handle traps for a fee and do nothing in combat, or someone else can re-roll as a rogue, coming in one experience level lower than their current character. Some player characters had leveled up between sessions if they hadn't died. That leaves just the 3 that hadn't died, right? Somebody asks if the difficulty will be adjusted for a smaller party. That's not how it works, Neckbeard says. Besides, you guys already have it easy. Somebody else says that the game doesn't feel easy. It would if you knew how to play. Oh, it's so ridiculous. It pains me deep down. That's Neckbeard's default response to any criticism. You should just play better. Your character's useless? You shouldn't have picked a ranger then. Everyone knows they suck. You keep getting clobbered by skeletons. Should have invested in better armor. Your spells keep getting resisted. Big different spells. The monsters are clearly out of your party's league. Sneak through or turn back. But they have the key that we need. Figure something out. What was your intended plan for this encounter? Oh, you didn't have one. I mean, I'm all for winging it, you know, but at least make it doable. At least make it fun. The last straw comes when the party finds a portrait gallery. They examine the paintings and do history checks, trying to learn something about the castle's history. Neckbeard humors them for a while, and then rolls dice for another random encounter. Oh, bad luck, he says. 3 beholders float into the room. Not being fools, the entire party hauls ass in the other direction, straight into a dead end. Oh my god. He's just a sadist, that's all he is. That wasn't a dead end until the party ran into it. The beholders catch up, and it turns into a total party kill. You shouldn't run down unexplored corridors, is all the Neckbeard has to say. That's it, I'm done. Let's all say it together. No D&D is better than bad D&D. Neckbeard tells the players to roll up new characters, and they'll start back in town. But the players have had enough. They complain that last fight was blatantly unfair. Neckbeard shrugs. It's a random encounter. Random. If you don't like them, don't dawdle. Dawdle? Dilly-dally? How old is this Neckbeard? I got some questions. They complain that too many of the fights are far too hard. Make better characters then. They complain that the dungeon is nothing but wall-to-wall combat and traps. That's a dungeon for you. But it's not fun, one player says. And this sets Neckbeard off. He slams his hand on the table and goes into a huge rant, grousing that this is Dungeons and Dragons, not some kids playing let's make believe on the playground. Players shouldn't expect to be coddled. I don't run hand-holding soap opera games, and so on and so forth. He's not really screaming, but he is loud enough that the other tables at the shop are taking notice. He ends the rant by picking up the sign that he had on the table and telling the players, this is what we're playing, Dungeons and Dragons. It's not for obscene epithets who write 100-page backstories and binge Critical Role. You play to win or you expect to lose. At this table, we play real D&D. And he slams the sign down to punctuate this. Oh, God. After a pause, one of the players raises his hands. Hey, yeah, can we go play fake D&D instead? Neckbeard's a bit thrown by this. Before he can even respond, another player chimes in that she too would like to play fake D&D. Neckbeard says, hey, that's not how it works. But the players hold an informal vote, and they are unanimously in favor of playing fake D&D. Neckbeard glowers, tells everybody he'll see him next week, gathers his stuff up, and leaves. Neckbeard shows up the next week to find that the group arrived a whole hour early. They brought a new DM, and they started without him. Oof. In the center of the table is a piece of paper folded into a tent shape to make an awkward little sign with red letters on it reading, "Fake D&D table." One player notices Neckbeard and waves. Neckbeard goes red-faced with anger, turns on his heel, and stomps out of the store. Oh, God. What a disaster, dude. What I want to know is how do the players keep getting pigeonholed into this dungeon, right? If you all died and end up in town, just be like, I'm going to go kill boars in the forest, try and get some experience. Maybe then we could tackle the dungeon. And then instead of killing boars in the forest, we just sit down, light up a campfire, do some fishing, get some quality role playing. I love me some fake D&D. And I want to revel in this feeling for just a moment, so let's go on down to the comment section to see what they have to say. I waited eagerly to see this part of the story, and it did not disappoint. The little paper saying fake D&D table made it. Those are some good players right there. More power to them. Neckbeard got absolutely obliterated. Also, the unfathomable arrogance of, "I'll see you next week," after his players expressed a universal dislike of his game. I think he could have brought it back around, you know? He could have been like, wow, you guys didn't like that? Maybe I'll try something different. But no, he's just so convinced that he is right and everybody else is wrong. We do see that a lot, actually. Anyways, Shady Shade says, besides, you guys have it easy anyway. Yeah, I mean, I haven't even used a level 40 Dracolich with an initiative of wow, why even bother rolling? Whose first combat action is to cast Heightened, Maximize, Still Silent, Create Antimatter 5 times in one turn. You bunch of babies. Man needs to take a trip to the Amazon to apologize personally to the trees for wasting the oxygen that they worked so hard to produce. Oh, God. The sickest birds in this subreddit. That's an r/rare insult if I ever heard one. Yeah, and he needs to apologize for every single atom that makes up his body for wasting their time with his life. Yeah, we go further with it. This man is depriving a village somewhere of their idiot. And see, we went too far. You didn't have to go there, Wombat Racer. Sorry to let you know. I had to be the one. Huxley was right, says, that's what I don't get about DMs that like to beat the players. Like, what's the challenge? It's easy to raise all your DCs to a point where you know they'll struggle to meet and put overpowered, overcrowded monsters in dungeons that outmatch the party. What's hard is finding a sweet spot where the party struggles, but manages to meet the rolls most of the time, and has to think about resting and hit die without, outright TPKing them. See, those are the dungeon masters that I really respect. Give some time for role-playing, tweak the combat just right, but it does take a lot of practice. Probably why I'm so hesitant to get into DMing myself. Peregrine C says, look, I love a mega dungeon meat grinder as much as the next guy, but I make damn sure that is what everyone's on board with. Kudos for the players for finding a game that they like. Although I'm sure Neckbeard did take that extremely personally. Recluse Reborn replies, the problem is there's well-designed meat grinder dungeons and then there's haphazardly thrown together crap that is just oppressively deadly for no good reason. I used to play with a DM that ran the latter. Yeah, and that's about the time that you ghost the group. Well, it seems to me like there's another post from this same dude, not related to these two. But I figure I'd throw a third one in here, keep the video a little bit more beefier, you know? People showed up for the meat. Can't disappoint the people. Alright, so let's move on into the next one. A tidal wave of D20s. Clattering across the table like aggressive stone tumbleweeds. And this is one day ago. You could tell the title drew me in. You know, this dude's a good writer. I'm like, oh, evocative. So it's game night again at the friendly local game shop. And while we try not to judge, you could tell right from the get-go that Newbie was going to be a problem. He saunters in wearing all black and a stainless steel skull ring, slouches in his chair like he's the hottest crap that ever crapped, makes small talk to the rest of the players, taking effort to point out that his favorite media properties are way cooler than theirs. He comes prepared with a ready-built character, a stock standard mysterious rogue with a mysterious backstory. Bends DM's ear before game about wanting a realistic campaign. Veteran players sigh internally. I mean, you want to tell them no, but you're like, convince yourself, maybe it's gonna be okay. And it's just never okay. So we start off in a tavern. Cliche, but it works. DM describes a packed tavern on a cold winter night, with the snow gently falling. Inside, a jovial scene that includes a roaring fire, a cheerful half-orc bartender, and a human barmaid. For once, the newbie with the edgy rogue is not sitting in the corner. He's instead talking with the barmaid, which is possibly even worse. "Hey, you're cute," he says. She blushes and thanks him. "How much?" he asks. She quotes him prices for a drink and a meal. "No," said Newbie. "No," said ReddX. "I mean, how much to get you to come to my bedroom for tonight?" DM sighs, quite externally this time. "She scoffs at you and walks away towards another table." Newbie sneers at the DM. I catch her by the arm and tell her it's no use playing, and I know how to make it good for her, if that's what she's worried about." Dude, what the hell is this? I'm so immediately uncomfortable. Can we not end it right here and now? Troll reaches in, grabs Newbie and eats him, and then leaves to go back to the mountains. Dud. DM says the barmaid shakes out of Newbie's grip and continues walking away. Newbie gets pissed and starts yelling at the DM that he should at least get to roll persuasion. And DM's playing the barmaid all wrong. DM tells him that the barmaid is not a lady of the night, to which Newbie replies, "Of course she is. That's what wenches do." Well, no, wenches are servants, and most people don't take to doing such things to their servants. See, it creates familiarity. But even beyond that, she's not a wench. She's a barmaid. Why do I need to explain these things? And then even if you get your persuasion roll and all that stuff, like, do we have to play it out? We're just gonna fade to black, right? I just already hate it. At this point, another player cuts in to the effect that actually, most taverns in the Middle Ages were family-owned businesses, meaning that the waitstaff was usually the owner's relatives. Taking the cue, DM says that the bartender taps Newbie's rogue on the shoulder and asks why he's getting all handsy with his daughter. Cue screaming Newbie, arguing with the rest of the table that DM's just pulling that stuff out of his butt, cause how could a half-orc father a human child? The argument goes on for 10 minutes. At one point, a player says, well, in real life, there are mixed-race people with lighter skin. More shockingly, there are also mixed-race people with darker skin, which was hilarious, I think. Maybe you had to be there. You definitely had to be there, but I appreciate you throwing it in. That's adding to the awkward, nerdy immersion. That's the vibe I love most. Finally, Newbie's had enough and says, you know what? Screw this. I'm gonna stab that bartender dead, and then take the wench and drag her off behind the bar to get some. Oh, God. It's like you see the train coming, you know, but you just can't make it stop. At this point, the argument stops. The table is stunned. DM starts to ask if he's sure, but is interrupted by Newbie rolling to hit and then for damage. Okay. DM leans back tiredly. After a moment, he asks the player to his left to borrow his d20s. The player hands DM one of his dice, and DM asks if he can borrow another. DM goes around the table, borrowing every player's d20s. Some have extras for spares or luck or to speed up rolls with advantage. Then he goes up to the store counter and buys more d20s. Winding up with about 2 dozen 20-siders all in all. Nobody knows what he's up to. Finally, he sits back down behind his screen and speaks.
Okay, your attack hits, and your dagger sinks into the bartender's belly. He stumbles backwards, clutching his side. The barmaid screams, which gets the attention of the other patrons. For a second, there's complete silence, and then voices.
Holy God, he stabbed old Otto. Oh my God, he's gonna kill him. What if the bartender dies? That means no beer? No beer! No beer! All eyes turn to you as the cry goes up, get him! Rolling initiative for the entire bar. DM rolls, and it is just a tidal wave of d20s of all different sizes and materials clattering across the table like aggressive stone tumbleweeds, ricocheting off each other, knocking over minis, and, of course, making an ungodly racket. DM asks the other players what they do. They all opt to sit at their tables, sipping their drinks, as Newbie's rogue is dogpiled by over 20 half-drunk commoners. He does try to fight back, of course, but he's quickly grappled to the ground and beaten unconscious by nearly 50 fists doing 1d4 damage each, plus one old man with his walking stick that dealt 1d6. The mob steals all of the rogue's gear, including his clothes, drags his unconscious body outside, and hangs him from a tree by his ankles, upside down, and naked for good measure. Oh, and I should remind you, this is on a cold winter's night with the snow gently falling. They also used hot pitch to write, look at this on his rear end, and Newbie is seething. The rest of the players are laughing their off, however. It is so good. It's almost as good as the warp marble. Meanwhile, the party gives the bartender medical attention, getting some free drinks for their trouble, of course. Later on, after picking up the quest hook, they do take pity on the sulking Newbie and cut his rogue down on the logic that, he might be useful if there are traps. Newbie goes with them on the adventure, but he's clearly deflated. He leaves the game halfway through, making some excuse about, other things to do. He never returns to the store, and nothing of value was lost that day as far as I'm concerned. You really probably shouldn't be solving out-of-game problems with in-game solutions. That's one thing that I do know. This should have been like full stop. You're not doing that. If you insist on doing that, continuing to behave that way, then I'm gonna ask you to leave my table. And there is some contention in the comments about that, so let's cover that a little bit. We got King's Daughter that says this is not a horror story. This is a horror story that was prevented by a smart DM and is now a wonderful story of an awful person and player getting their comeuppance. Thank you for this wonderful tale, and I hope you got your brilliant DM a drink after this session. Rush Raptor kind of voicing what I said. I semi-disagree. A smart DM would have simply said, no, we're not doing that. Everyone let the rogue do what he wanted, and then the DM made a show about the consequences. Don't do that. Simply axe any type of maltreatment from even being attempted. King's Daughter retorts, well, I think that is often a good way to handle it. I think doing it this way taught the kid a much better lesson. If the DM refused, he'd likely try again at another person's table or would have remained belligerent the remainder of the session. By allowing him enough rope to hang himself, the DM humiliated him and hopefully taught him a lesson that he'd never forget. And then the argument devolves into semantics, as it always does after 3 replies, but King's Daughter kinda talking me around a little bit, you know? Maybe next time have a sidebar with the players and see what they want to do about a situation like this. Like, are we down to have some fun with this dude, or do you want him removed from the table immediately, right? As always, in almost every RPG, almost every fast of life for that matter, it is exceedingly important to have good communication, open communication. Dungeon Master wanted a female for balance. And then he gets upset when the females form a group of their own. I mean, what did you expect to happen, honestly? You trying to shoehorn genders into your game? I don't know how you thought this was gonna work out, honestly. So this went down in my local area's D&D group, where you can post if you're looking for a player, Dungeon Master, or if you are a player who's looking for a table. A Dungeon Master posted saying that a spot had opened up at his table, but he wanted a female for balance because the table was all males. Yeah, that's a big old yikes right there, my dude.
Oh no!
Yeah, totally for balance. It's gonna be fine. Come on into the den of incel nerd. I can't do this, dude. No. And the sad part is, I'm sure somebody bought into it. They're like, yeah, for balance, that makes sense to me. I'll be the female for the table. And it's only gonna devolve. But he also added that this was a dark and edgy homebrew, which on its own wasn't a huge deal, but paired up with the whole looking for a female, yeah, that didn't sit well with me, but I initially just scrolled past. Yeah, I'm getting huge creep vibes. All I got was like a sidelong telling of this story, a third-party view of it, and I can tell you from just those few sentences that this is the type of post that needs to be reported and removed. Just report it for like, I don't know, discrimination or something like that. Several women pointed out that having one woman at a table of 6 was not balanced. And the DM responded that he was trying to create a more diverse table and seemed completely oblivious to any suggestion that having over 80% of the table being men wasn't really adding much diversity. And he refused to answer why he was so adamant on having a woman at the table. Yeah, we're just a bit ball heavy, guys. We need a woman for balance. I'm totally not gonna creep on her. Who's buying that, bro? Nobody. Nobody. This is so weird. I don't understand how we thought this would work. Other commenters, men, who were looking for a table, were upset. And they called sexism because they were being excluded due to their gender, as tables in this area are largely hard to come by unless you offer to host them at your house. So good, like I said, report the post, get it removed. Done and done. I don't think you really want to play at this table anyways. My spidey senses started to go off as to why he was adamant on having a woman at the table after it was pointed out that it actually wasn't going to bring that much diversity to the table, and I think the same happened for several other prospective players. A woman commented that even though she was a woman, she was now leery of joining this particular table, and a few other women posted that they were in the same boat and also not wanting to join. So I suggested we form our own group, and someone else volunteered to DM. Yeah, that's fine. Now we've got, 2 tables, separate but equal. Wait, we don't do that anymore. I don't know, man. I'm glad that the ladies got to play. I'm glad that they could play without being creeped on by 80% dudes sitting at this table, making it really fucking weird with the dark and edgy homebrew, which that's just gonna devolve into some sort of sexual fantasy, which you probably don't want to be a part of. This is creepy. This is so creepy, and I'm glad everybody clocked this and just left the situation. The DM then proceeded to go on a rant in the comments about how he was trying to be a good person by including more women into his game, and instead we were segregating ourselves. Gee, I wonder why. What could possibly go wrong? He then deleted the entire post and then reposted saying there was one spot at his table free. Nothing about gender, etc. No takers just yet, but I'm sure someone, especially the men that were initially excluded, will sign up. The group that I formed had our session 0 last night, and it went really well. It just seems like a really creepy thing to post about. Much like a lot of the nice guys that we see here on the channel, he's trying to veil his intentions with like, oh, I'm just doing all this to be a good person. It's like, no, you're not, dude. And everybody can see what is happening here. I'm glad that the ladies got their own table. Then they don't need to worry about being creeped on by these basement virgins. It could have been a horror story, but luckily, it seems to have turned out pretty well. It turned out to be a heartwarming story, and I want you to hold this story in your mind while we get into the other stories, which may or may not be as heartwarming. So let's go ahead and push on through into the next one. Player accused me of pushing an agenda because of how one of the NPCs looks. Oh boy. I'm offended by everything. Don't make the character look like that, you snowflake. You're pushing an agenda. It's like, aren't you being the snowflake right now? Because you're offended by how an imaginary character looks? Oh god. It's so far off the rails already. So the post starts out, I have no idea what was wrong with him. Oh, I don't think there's room on the post for that. Reddit has a character count. We can't really go all that deep. Where to start? Lay down on the couch. Tell me about your relationship with your mother. This wasn't even that big of a deal, honestly. I really like telling stories, and I've found that D&D is a really fun way to do so, while having others involved as well. I often advertise for players because I could not find long-term players for a while. Right off the bat, I'm kind of sus about the GM because really D&D is not a chance for you to get on stage and tell your stories with others involved. You're just there to guide the story that the players would like to tell, at least from the way that I understand it. Not the most egregious thing in the world, I guess, but do be wary of railroading your players with a mindset like that. Over this year, I found 5 guys that have stuck with me, and surprisingly, they're all from the Middle East. So I don't need to worry about conflicting time zones as I did in the past. Well, the Middle East is a bit of a conservative place, as far as I've clocked it. So yeah, maybe they don't want certain types of characters in their D&D games. I can kind of see where this is going, right? But I guess we're here, we're strapped in. Let's just push on through. I ran a few small modules with them and got to know them a bit. 4 of them were really good folks, but one, Sigma. Really? Sugma and Ligma. He was really annoying. The things that annoyed me were, 1, he's a really big believer in the alpha beta bullshit, and his character, the edgiest blood hunter I've ever seen, according to him, is a true alpha. Oh my god, dude. Beards have spread into the Middle East. The Middle East is now having that guy problems. Oh man, I'm losing the small glimmer of hope that I had. We need to turn off the internet just for like a year or 2, okay? Get us back to basics. It took us a while to realize that he was actually serious about all of this, telling the others to act like alphas. I'm pretty sure there can only be one alpha, bro. Then again, he's trying to lift his fellow alpha kings up in this D&D game. God. There's so much cringe to sort through here. I don't know where to start. However, somewhere during this year, his alpha mentality changed into a sigma mindset. And none of us have any idea what the difference is supposed to be. I mean, I know, and yes, it is a recent development, but I can't get into it right here. We're gonna have a video on that relatively soon. Sigmas essentially are our lone wolf alphas, okay, to put it in a sentence. He even told another player to adopt the Sigma mindset. Oh yeah, bro, you gotta get on your smegma male grind set, right? Because that guy told us that he was a bit upset because he had a breakup. God, dude. You're not helping. Yeah, she was a bitch anyways. Probably cheated on you. Get on your Sigma grind set, bro. Oh, God. I'm dying. I'm dying deep down inside. And everywhere else too, honestly. 2. He really liked to take the spotlight and make himself the self-appointed leader of the party. I mean, you probably didn't even need to mention that. He does think that he's the main character, not just in this game, but like in all of life. This is terrible. I'm horrified. None of us really minded all that much because we only had to tolerate it once a week, and he could be genuinely hilarious at times. Hilarious on purpose? I don't think you should have to, like, tolerate things in your D&D games. No D&D is better than bad D&D, alright? I definitely would just stop showing up. People would be like, oh, what happened to your character? I'm like, I don't know, I'm just not that interested. Kill him off, whatever, make him an NPC. I don't care anymore. I recently told them all that I had a campaign in mind, and all of them were interested in playing. The first session went well, and during that session they heard legends of the master of the Adventurers Guild, who was said to be the physically strongest person in the country, to which Sigma had to say that that guy probably was a true alpha. God damn it, dude. Let it go. Make it stop. I don't know why you're doing this. The next session, they got to see the Guildmaster, who I had loosely based on real-life strongmen. I described him as a large, bald guy with a fluffy beard, a rotund belly, and muscular arms. I like to give quirks to important figures, and his was to be that he makes really bad jokes that make his subordinates embarrassed, and usually the master of the Adventurers Guild is the only one who laughs at his own jokes. God, I identify with that so much, honestly. Maybe that's my quirk. Sigma didn't like that one bit. He said, I was pushing an agenda, and if this guy's the strongest person, he should have abs and whatnot. Oh my God. This really is completely out of left field. It's like not an overt type of agenda, which I would be fine with too. There's lots of different kinds of people and characters that probably exist in this fantasy world, right? But thinking that the strongest person has to have abs, how about no? Have you watched strongman contests where they lift up boulders and pull buses around? Do any of those guys have abs? No. They're just built like a keg. a muscular wall. And for some reason he takes offense to this? Oh my God. Smegma also said that he should behave like the alpha of the pack and not make himself to be a fool. I think he's identifying with it just a little bit too much. He's like, you're talking about me. Everything's centered around me. It's not my problem that you have this complex, bro. I told him not to tell me how to make a character, and that his pseudoscience was getting old. The others started arguing with Sigma as well, and he left the call and blocked us. Well, sometimes the trash takes itself out. Ain't nothing wrong with that, honestly. Honestly, I'm surprised that it was such a small thing that set him off. He's got more issues that we could probably get into in this post, but the fact is that strong men, they're usually pretty thick, right? Abs are for, bodybuilders, and bodybuilding doesn't necessarily equate to being the strongest that you can possibly be. It equates to showing off your muscles well. But yeah, look up a strongman contest, like anywhere, and you'll see some really chunky looking dudes that can pull a bus. They are definitely the strongest. Honestly, I don't think anything of value was lost within this story. When somebody accuses you of pushing an agenda, especially when it's something this tiny, that usually is just them outing themselves as a complete asshole, isn't it? So good. I'm sure you'll find another player to fill the slot if you feel that you need to, and he will find another group to terrorize with his really weird takes on how life is supposed to be. So this story, darker than the first one, but now we are going to get into the darkest of all as we head into the third story. I'm so sorry about this. Strap yourselves in. It's gonna end with some fireworks, all right? So let's get into it. Our DM disappeared. Oh, that's never good. Usually it's a player that bails on the group, but for a DM to just give up all of his world building, that's shocking. I wonder what could have possibly happened. So here's the story of when our DM just up and disappeared, and how we came to learn what it was that happened to him. The cast is the Dungeon Master, the Ranger, who is our OP, a Warforged Cleric, a Dragonborn Barbarian, a Tiefling Druid, and a Changeling Bard. I was looking for a new 5th edition group to join after I left the game with a super controlling Dungeon Master, and I posted an ad in a Facebook group. Out of the handful of messages that I got, this group fit my schedule best, and the DM was new as well. We chat a bit on Facebook Messenger, and he invites me to the Discord server. There were already 2 players from his previous one-shot that would be continuing this campaign, and we got another 2 players before we got started. Okay, so it looks like everything's coming together, I don't know how it went off the rails, but I guess that's what we're here to find out. The first session went very well, and all of us really clicked as a group. Since this game was only being held every other week, I suggested that we have like an RP chat to keep things going in the off times. It was a hit. Everyone was getting really into character, and the DM was very responsive, acting as the NPCs. See, that's nice. Everybody gets engaged. Maybe you want to up the frequency a little bit. Instead of twice a month, maybe you do 4 times a month. Every week. At least if that works for everybody's schedule, I guess. We have 3 more sessions and find that all of our backstories are woven into the main plot. Pieces and plans are coming together, and we're about to confront the city council about the happenings in town and in the surrounding areas. This was shaping up to be an exciting campaign. Our last session was on June 5th, and at the end we had finally reached level 3 after stopping a ritual from happening. Well, level 3 is not quite level 4, and I guess those characters will never see level 4, which is quite sad. I don't know why the DM bailed out. Level 4 is the most exciting part! God damn it! Everything regarding this game and the DM had seemed copacetic, and everyone was excited to play again, but this is where things start getting strange. June 6th through June 8th, the DM, Barbarian, Cleric, Bard, and myself were active in the roleplay chat, gathering more intel and honing our newly acquired skills. June 9th was the last post that the DM made in our general chat. It was in response to a funny video that someone shared. Sounds like it'll be an epic quest. Bro, you about to go on an epic quest, ain't you? June 10th through the 17th. The Cleric and Barbarian are having their own conversations in the guild hall. June 17th, the Barbarian posts in general chat at DM. Character chat's gonna need you. June 19th is our game day, and so far the DM has not responded. The cleric posts at everyone, has anyone heard from the DM? And we all say no. This is very strange, and not like him at all. We're all adults, and we do have lives outside of the game, so it wasn't uncommon to have a slight delay, but not like this. Direct Facebook messages and Discord messages go unread and unanswered. All the players meet in the voice channel on time. No DM. We wait around for almost an hour and he never shows, nor does he answer any of the messages. Oh yeah, that's feeling a little sussy. I don't know what happened. Did he get in a car crash? Once the mystery is unveiled, I'm sure that we will wish that he had. So June 20th, radio silence, and now all of us players are really worried. We're chatting about what it could be and what to do. I find the DM's wife through his Facebook profile and send her a private message. Oh God, he had a wife. Oh, it's unfortunate. Hey there, I play in one of DM's games, and we hadn't heard from him since like the 8th to the 9th, and we're reaching out because we're pretty concerned. I hope everything's okay, and sorry if I bothered you. You're not a bother at all. We had a family emergency, and he probably won't be able to come back to the game for a while. Thank you for your concern, and I appreciate you reaching out. Okay, thank you for replying. We were getting worried. I'm sorry you guys are going through that. Take as much time as y'all need. Thank you. Which, you know, her response does pull at the heartstrings. You're like, oh no, family emergency, that's terrible. I understand 100%. If I was in the same situation, I would want a lot of understanding. But, as it will come out shortly, she lied about it. She lied about it all to cover up his tracks. And that's the most hateable thing about this. So yes, it is time. Get your seatbelt nice and fuckled. Maybe just tie it around your neck or something like that, because we are about to crash into it pretty hard.
The neck belts, introduced last month in an attempt to reduce head injuries.
So July 4th, the cleric messages me saying that he noticed that the DM's Facebook profile is gone and not even available on Messenger. So I check and confirm the same. July 10th, the druid posts in general chat asking if anyone has heard any updates. We all reply that we haven't. She then goes into FBI mode, gathering his full name, location, and age, and finds this. 8 arrested in Grand Traverse County trafficking operation. And yes, what were they trafficking? Children. And what were they trafficking them for? Yeah, you can see. I don't want to say it out loud. It's a horrible situation. He got caught up in a 2-day-long sting operation by the Traverse County Sheriff's Office. We ain't gonna be seeing that fucker for a long time. And thank God for that, honestly. I'd have more sympathy for the wife and, you know, everybody involved if she fessed up. She's like, it's disgusting what he did. But no, she covered it up. She covered his tracks. Was she involved? Can we put him against the wall? The husband definitely belongs. I'm not going to show the pictures. I'm not going to show the names. I'm sure you could find it if you were so inclined. But trust me, this guy is going to have a bad enough time. And honestly, I hope he doesn't make it out of prison. I'd never encourage any violence like that, but, you know, hope floats, I guess. So yeah, game over. To say that we were all shocked is an understatement. He seemed like such a normal guy. Didn't give off any creepy vibes at all. Nowhere in-game or in private chats was there any hint to this behavior. We will not be continuing this game, but we will reuse these characters in another game that Cleric Barbarian and I are rejoining. Honestly, throw those characters away, bro. You don't want anything that is attached to this. That's just gonna be bad memories. What if you make it to like 20th level with these characters and forever you're going to look at them and be like, yeah, who DM'd these characters initially? Cringe. I can't do that. I can't be involved in all that. So please let this story be a message to always be careful who you play with and what you share with others online. Be safe out there, adventurers. And truly, it is a good reminder that you really don't know who you're dealing with. Yeah, he seemed like a good guy online. Even his wife was covering up his demons for him. And I just don't understand the logic behind that. Maybe it's a conversation she's not willing to have with a stranger, which I sort of get, but also, like, you should be disavowing this at every turn. This is one of probably the most irredeemable thing that I could imagine happening, and I didn't expect it when I jumped into RPG Horror Stories today. I'm like, let's look for, some NSW stories that nobody else is gonna cover. It'll just be good fun. And this one was at the top of the list, and I figured, yeah, probably nobody else is going to cover this, so why not me? I will treat it with the gravity that it deserves. I am so glad that he got caught. I'm so glad that OP doesn't have to interact with this stealthy freak anymore. I don't know how nobody could have noticed it, but I guess if you're just there for the game specifically and not involved in the outside life, like maybe his wife didn't even notice. Maybe he lied to her about the whole thing as well. I can't really judge it from just a Reddit post, but what I do know is I hate it. I hate it, and I'm so glad that he's going to jail, and I hope he never sees the outside ever again. And if he does, then I hope somebody recognizes him and puts the fucking boots to him, hard style. This is one of the worst things that I could ever imagine, and I'm so sorry that you had to go through it, OP. Yes, it was a bit of a mind blow for you, I'm sure, but it serves as a good reminder to all of us that you really don't know who you're dealing with online. Keep yourself safe out there. Keep your credentials safe. Definitely use a pseudonym if you feel safer that way. All you really know is who people tell you that they are, and that's scary as hell to me, man. I do have a lot of friends online, but they've been pretty heavily vetted for the most part. But even then, if something like this came out, I might be like, Jesus Christ. Deer in the headlights. Like, how could you ever see this coming? I think it's good to give people the benefit of the doubt, but at the end of the day, also maybe trust no one, okay? This is just the wildest post that I've ever seen on this subreddit, and thanks, I hate it.
This episode brought to you by ReddX audiobook narrations. I promise I won't talk in the middle. Maybe.
The audiobook game master that got annoyed every time a player tried to do something to progress the plot. Oh yes, I've talked about being railroaded before, but today we are truly on the tracks. And hopefully by the end of the story we'll be off the tracks and off somewhere in the woods. The TLDR, yeah, I don't want to spoil it too much. But basically, the Game Master recruits 4 unwilling participants with lies to read them in a sneaky way the world building that they wrote in a parody of a role-playing game with no actual agency and no hints as to where to go. It's a waking nightmare. Tension builds between the actors, acting more chaotic by the minute until it culminates. But then the GM suddenly disappears at exactly the 23rd hour in a disturbing fashion, as if they magically transformed back into a pumpkin. Yeah, you'd be surprised how restless players can get when they're not given things to do. You don't want to feed me plot points? That's fine. We can sit here and PvP for 4 hours. For a little bit of context, ROP User Dandy Reddit is part of a tabletop RPG club of a geeky company with about 40 to 50 people, I guess, all in their 20s or 30s, in which members can organize tables, campaigns, one-shots, etc., and the systems are plenty. Hey, y'all checked out Blood and Thunder, Weirdos and Waifus, Cyberpunk, current year plus 1,000? Pick it up at ramtide.itch.io for pay whatever you want. Thanks so much. Anyways, as you might guess, D&D is one of the games that is played in this club, but surprisingly it is part of the minority. I guess Wizards sort of shot themselves in the foot when it came to that. They get rid of the open gaming license and the whole world's like, guess what? There's many other tabletops aside from D&D. And you love to see that, honestly. Not for this video, I guess, but why not? It's in here now. So yeah, they play Powered by the Apocalypse and Forged in the Dark and Vampire the Masquerade. There's also Pathfinder, COC, which is probably Call of Cthulhu. Unfortunately, my first thought was Clash of Clans because I'm poisoned. There's Delta Green, there's one-page RPGs, etc. It is very varied. Very, very varied. In that context, a member, regular player from some other tables, was recruiting up to 4 people for a medieval fantasy one-shot, which is basically just one session for the uninitiated. In the recruitment announcement, they were giving out some details. Only one session, there's already one player recruited, their forever DM from a D&D campaign as a player, nice person with quite good communication skills. They're currently searching for 2 to 3 more players. It is a homebrew medieval fantasy setting, but a tame one. We play as merchants in a besieged city in a human kingdom. New GM, a little bit nervous. System is a bare bones homebrew system with nothing too exotic. It is very roleplay driven. Honestly, they might have got me with this one too. It sounds like exactly what I would like to play, if only you can throw in like low magic. But nobody ever plays low magic because it's not glamorous. We all want to pretend to shoot fireballs, right? Nah, bro, give me a sword and board, I'm good. So we were +3 club members to answer this message. Myself and 2 other people that I occasionally play with, both grown adults with good mindsets. Their other player that was mentioned confirmed their participation, and we all scheduled a day to sit down and play together. So we joined the table online via Discord at 20 hours, which I guess is 8 o'clock. We say hello. The GM starts by saying that we'll need to stop by 11. All right, fine. All good with that. It gives us a solid 3 hours of time for apparently a small one-shot, so yeah, that's completely fine after all. Game Master then starts to pitch us the world and the major events that happened in the last couple of centuries, showing us a whole continent world map made on Incarnate and everything. Okay, so he's invested, he's passionate. I'm giving him the benefit of the doubt. He's a new GM, there's a learning curve. It's just unfortunate that he gave everybody all heat and no meat. You know, I'm trying to feast. After almost 10 minutes spent on this backstorying, I interrupt politely, asking which type of game system we'll use because I'd like to know about that first. Them being a new GM, I expected that pacing wouldn't be mastered at this stage quite yet. I tried to help a little bit without being too forceful. GM just waves the question away awkwardly, saying, there's no system at all. This will all be GM education from start to finish. I insist to at least understand which type of game activities will be done during the session, not wanting things like tactical combat done with no rolls, and they confirm that there won't be any, and no rolls either. No HP, nothing, just entirely roleplay. Well, GM probably could have specified that in the post. I want to play with my math rocks, damn it. I'm up and out. Thank you. This is what I thought it wasn't. I have to go now. It was a first oddity. Straying from the premise of a bare bones system, I was expecting at minimum like a resolution system. Now interrupted in their lore exposition, GM explains that we play as merchants from the common. Points to the map at a little city and says that everything will happen there. Then why do we need the backstory for all this stuff? It's just gonna take up space in my brain, dude. But nonetheless, the GM then resumes the general world and history background lore exposition for a few more minutes, and we just kinda let him have at it. But listening to it, it's really obvious that this is not gonna have any impact on this one-shot session. This is mostly past events far from each other involving many factions, resulting in kingdoms at war since long ago. It does explain the besieged city that we start in, but while answering a player question, GM states that, you will not be there to change or stop the siege. Okay, then what are we here for? As GM finally speaks about us, the player characters, I ask them if we should create some characters, and the GM answers that we'll just choose from some pre-generated ones, which that's fine to me in a one-shot, you know? I was a bit worried that extended cinematic long intro, in addition to character creation, would have taken up half of the session length. Oh, don't you worry, OP, there's gonna be plenty of time left for filibustering. So there are 4 merchant player sheets with names and specialty shops to choose for us 4 players. No info, no stats, nothing more than their names and their specialty shop. Seems fine. Looks to me like we'll have plenty of agency to make them our own. This could be cool. Man, hope floats, doesn't it? So I picked the jeweler merchant. That also sells clockwork. I remember another player picking a weapons seller. Spears, parade shields, swords, that type of thing. The other 2 merchants' details don't really have an impact on the story, so we'll skip it. We learn that we either don't have anything left to sell due to the siege, or no clients. And we also don't have money. Oh, and also we are starving. Our characters turn to the black market for the last few months, which still probably doesn't help with not having anything to sell, right? The initial situation is us hidden in a sea cave speaking with smugglers. They've been paid by someone overseas to deliver a small parcel, some long wooden box sealed about the size of a hand, to an aristocrat of the city. But they cannot leave their boat because reasons, and they will share half of the reward with us if we finish the delivery. Smells like framing or a trap, but we're poor, hungry, desperate merchants, not paranoid adventurers. So hell yeah, we're in. Our character said yes, and the one-shot starts at this point. At least in theory. We immediately get a very long GM description all about the smuggler's boat. Oh, great. I'm so excited. Then a long description about the sea cave that we're in. A long description about the enemy armada that surrounds and besieges our city. A long description about the damaged districts that our shops are located in. A long description of how the life is miserable here since the siege started. Then we get a long description of a particular shop near ours. But of course, there was no description of the players' shops. Yeah, because the GM's just like, whatever. You didn't pay me to write that part. It's your character, you make it up. So yeah, clearly this game master has trouble with the concept of giving the players the spotlight. Through their descriptions, they have apparently made us leave the cave and get back to our district without asking us or letting us have any agency. At least not quite yet. 50 minutes in, and no player has had an opportunity to make their character do anything yet. Y'all are just sitting here for this? An hour of my life I'll never get back? We've talked about audiobook GMs before. It's something that really grinds my gears. But this is so next level. 50 minutes! The session's a third over now. So at this point, OP interrupts again, asking what we know exactly about the item that we're carrying, and the aristocrat individual that we need to deliver it to. At this point, we didn't even get that NPC's name quite yet. The GM shares with us the name of the aristocrat finally. Let's call him Sir Aristo. And then GM stops there. No more info. Finally, a silence for the players to fill. So I start discussing out of character with the other players, proposing that we should go straight to the home of this aristocrat as a solid first step, without separating the group preferably, to make sure that every player can get a part in it. At this point, the GM stops me, saying that, you guys can't go to the aristocrat's house. Apparently, our player characters had never heard about this aristocrat's name and don't know where he lives because we're not part of the aristocratic world ourselves. Cool, great, complete dead end. Are we having fun yet? I argue that as a jewelry and clockwork seller, I've probably at least heard about them, and maybe they're even part of my clientele, or at least through servants working as intermediaries. GM seems okay on principle with this statement, generally for the aristocratic population, but insists that I have at best an idea of what Sir Aristo looks like from rumors, but nothing else. None of us knows where Sir Aristo lives. Okay, noted, I guess. As Game Master previously took a long time describing a specific shop near ours, the group decides to go there and asks if they know any more about where Sir Aristo might live. GM tells us, the shop's closed. Nobody's there to answer. Bro, then why did you paint it in such detail? They explain that we met the smugglers in the middle of the night and that the streets are empty, except for soldiers enforcing a curfew at night. Bro, I understand you're new to GMing, but did you not mention this? Let's streamline this whole thing a little bit. So at this point, the group then decides to just go to sleep until the morning because they're obviously feeling quite stuck and not wanting to get grabbed by the soldiers. But the GM explains that, you can't do that either. Is this just like a really deep troll? Are you being messed with on like many levels? I can't believe it. GM elucidates that you have to stay awake if you want to honor the deal with the smugglers. Why? Because we need to deliver the wooden box to Sir Aristo, and then get something back from him and bring it back to the smugglers to get the reward, and all that before the middle of the morning when the smugglers will leave. Okay, well, that does change a lot of things, but we still don't know where to go. And everything is closed, and the streets are deserted and under a curfew. The group still decides to wait until the sun rises, but Game Master apparently doesn't want us to time jump to the sun rising, and he wants us to role play out the wait. This is so awkward. At this point, half of the game time is already consumed, and nothing has happened. The weapons merchant, played by someone that's usually a bit of a murder hobo, at least in their own sessions, proposes that we open the wooden box to get an eye on what might be inside. And this makes sense. We're waiting with nothing to do, nobody to talk to, and God, nothing is happening anyways. The only thing of interest is this box. But of course, the GM tells us that we cannot, because the seal would be broken, and the deal is to bring it unopened. And secondly, because they say our characters find out that we physically cannot open the box. Bro, I'm so done. I understand it's a one-shot. You only got an hour and a half left, but I would rather do anything else with that 90 minutes, okay? Pain! We are intrigued by this statement. I say that my merchant has an eye on the wooden box with their expert eye in jewelry and clockwork. So the GM throws me a bone. He tells me what type of wood it is, and then he gives a long, a long description of the craftsmanship of the box and the probable source of that oh so rare wood, which apparently tells us nothing useful about the item because, again, reasons. I say that I inspect it further, shaking it, looking at it closely, investigating the mechanism, the seam, etc., to see how it could theoretically be opened, with no intention of opening it, of course. The GM then tells us, you get no info out of it.
There's no seam. It's just one piece of wood with no default. Nothing moves inside if it's shaken.
Bro, you really are just giving him nothing. What is the point of this? It's gotta be a troll, dude. Okay. So, is this even a box then? How do we know that this hunk of wood is a box? I mentioned the tools for delicate work that I have at my shop, but apparently they are also not of any help. We again ask the GM if we can just please skip to the sun rising. And this time, for some reason, he's totally okay with it. Holy God. He's so out of his depth, dude. So we go to the previously very long, detailed shop that is now open to ask for directions. But we learn absolutely nothing out of the shopkeeper. Like us, they don't know anything. For some reason, they are even annoyed at our presence in their shop. I'll buy that for a shopkeep, you know.
Buy something or leave.
The group then decides to go to the first tavern we can find to ask for some directions. But the game master says,
the tavern's closed. It only opens later in the morning.
We then argue for a while with the game master. The group says, okay, then we'll wait for the tavern to open. Or we go to whichever tavern opens first, or to anywhere else that we could possibly get info from. If needed, we even try every person on the street and every sort of shop or whatever until something works. GM finally let us have an open tavern, but an empty one that wasn't serving any customers. It really does get funnier the longer it goes on. Would this not drive you up a wall? We get a long description of this completely empty tavern. We get a long description of the tavern owner and their history in the city. We ask him for directions. The tavern owner is clearly annoyed at us being there while they try to open up their tavern. He wants us to come back later or at least pay for a drink or something before asking anything, so we do that. But then we need to wait for him to finish opening the tavern. Okay, then we'll wait. We get a description of how it happens. Then we order drinks. But there's almost nothing left to drink due to the siege, so apparently the drinks are terrible and not worth the money. Damn. But hey, at least you got a glimmer of agency as you purchase your own drinks. Round of applause. That's amazing. Then we're finally asking for the directions that we need, and we get none. The tavern owner just gives us no valuable information. They just don't know nothing, not even a general direction. Oh my God. What a train wreck. At this point, there is less than 1 hour left before 11 o'clock, so we forcefully pause the game and ask the GM if they're okay. We asked the GM if we had progressed well, because we had the feeling that we were now completely and utterly stuck, and that we need their help to guide us to wherever we need to be at to get to the fun parts. GM explains that they weren't expecting us to go to a tavern at all, but that we are on schedule. I don't believe you. That they have trouble because they're new to GMing and they get a little nervous, but that things are fine. It's clear that all players are now annoyed and really want something interesting to happen.
Well, how's it feel to want, OP?
This GM is wanting for a lot. And I can have sympathy with that, you know? You're a new GM, I get it, maybe you got a little motor mouth when you're nervous or something. But take constructive criticism, don't lie to me and say that we're on schedule when we are clearly not. You didn't expect a group of adventurers to go into a tavern? Or merchants, I guess? Well, yeah, new GM, make a note of that. Basically everything happens in a tavern. At this point, OP says the following with sympathy to the GM. Can you please just put us on a path or even bring us to the right place directly? Let's skip the rest of the walk if we can. I don't know about the others, but I feel like we have wandered enough, and we are now ready to go to the delivery scene with Sir Aristo. To which GM says, okay, your characters know that all aristocrats live in the higher part of the city. GM adds that it's a plot point, that we don't know exactly which house it is from the start though, because it's a big city, and we couldn't possibly know everybody's house. Okay, annoying. They don't want to jump to the interesting part directly, but at least they did give us our first lead, I guess. Do you think that this GM is like way over-prepared or super under-prepared? Because I'm kind of torn. I lean towards over-prepared, but it wouldn't surprise me in the least if he has no idea what the final fight scene is going to be. So again, OP makes a proposal, which is the following. You agreed that I have aristocrat clients through their servants. Can I please quickly visit one of said client's servants to get an address for this delivery? GM agrees. We walk to the higher district to get 3 long descriptions. The beautiful high walls around this aristocratic district, the beautifully armored guards guarding all the doors in the wall that apparently have the martial ability to transform us into a red paste if they wanted, and finally the beautiful aristocratic district architecture style. Bro, we got 20 minutes left. Can we wrap this up? Finally, I go to the door of my aristocratic client to ask for the servant that I had a previous transaction with. But no, they're not there. And the person speaking to me does not trust me enough to speak with me. The servant I'm looking for simply isn't there, and they refuse to tell me where to find them. On top of that, nobody wants to give me the goddamn address of Sir Aristo either! I'm telling you, dude, deep troll. It has to be. How could it be anything but? And at this point, OP says, I just don't know anymore. The group doesn't know either what to do anymore. We are just annoyed. Nothing that we proposed managed to make this plot progress. Is this some sort of special hell that we're in that just has no agency and no point? It's purgatory for tabletop gamers. One of us asks to go up to the guards at the city doors, but they don't want to speak to common people about the aristocrats' whereabouts. One of us says their character wants to start asking just everybody and anybody in the street. Another says they'll just start trying every door until we find the right manner. Still starting to get chaotic. We do want to stir it up at this point. We got something like 15 minutes of this session left before 11 o'clock, and I'm guessing it'll probably take at least 30 plus minutes to wrap it up, or an hour, but I won't accept an hour extension, and I decide that I'm leaving at 11:30 whatever happens. This game is far too unfun. I'm surprised you gave it the whole time, honestly, OP. Round of applause for you. Patience of a saint right here. So finally, the GM sees everybody start acting all chaotic, and the GM suddenly tells me that I meet with the servant that I was searching for. Yes! Freaking finally! Something! The servant is described as very annoyed to see me, like everybody else. No crap. Reluctantly, the servant agrees to give me the freaking address finally, but not easily. It took some solid roleplay persuasion from my end for whatever reason. Because immersion, OP, aren't you feeling immersed? We got the address. We got the address. We can finally start the fetch quest. Oh, it hurts. It only took almost 3 hours of intense nothing happening. How? How had we not left the table already? Hindsight is 2020, but man. We finally go to this address. We're finally facing the closed door of the manor of Sir Aristo to deliver the wooden box that cannot be opened nor even inspected. Subservient opens to us, but of course doesn't want to let us inside because we weren't expected. We don't have a rendezvous. As players, we are annoyed. One of us proposes that we just throw the wooden box over the shoulder of the servant in the manor through the semi-open door and call it a day. We argue with this a-hole servant and convince them to let 2 of us meet the master, Sir Aristo, because all 4 will probably be too much for him. I feel like the party would just agree to anything at this point to keep the plot moving in a direction that they are actually involved in. We then have a long description of the manor interior, then a long description of the master's office. Then we have a long description of the master. He is handsome, elegant, has nice clothes, and he looks really upset. Of course, he is another complete a-hole. Maybe it's something in the water. He apparently radiates a main character aura and some big peepee energy. He says he's annoyed to have to speak to us. I guess we also are annoyed very much. He takes the wooden box while acting like a Karen about the fact that we were so slow at delivering it. He takes it, takes something out from the inside of it, replaces it with something else, and closes the box. He then says that whatever is now inside is more important than our lives, but he refuses to elaborate. He refuses to explain what or why or how or anything at all. Refuses to explain what he took out of the box either. This is so dumb. I'm not even curious. I just want to go home. I want it to be over. We tell the game master that at least we should have seen what he took out or what he put in. Maybe how to open or close the box, right? Visual cues? Anything? Solid no. Apparently Sir Aristo turned his back to us, and we know that we saw nothing because, well, he was just too fast, and we were far too dumb to understand what had happened. Yes, the complex mechanics of a box. Then the party gets kicked out of the manor because our presence is now just completely insufferable for Sir Aristo, with, again, the wooden box in our hands. It is almost 11, like 10:55. Okay, we did it. It was goddamn awful and unfun and full of jerks and meaningless encounters, and we got no satisfaction whatsoever out of it. But at least there would be no extended time, I thought to myself. No need to narrate the annoying backtracking going back to the smugglers, right? But Game Master still narrates and describes. The second we step foot outside, the whole district is locked up. Guards are plenty, buzzing and lining everybody up. They apparently are searching for something with intensity. All right, 5 minutes left. Drop a nuke on the whole thing. Thanks for playing, everybody. So, of course, it is completely clear that these guards are searching for whatever MacGuffin is hidden inside the wooden box. I then go to a guard to ask for what they're searching for, while asking in a suspect manner on purpose. I have the box in my pocket, mind you. Yes, I am entering my own a-hole mode to at least get some fun out of this ordeal. I wanted some agency, even if it was to get the frickin' box lost to the guards and myself decapitated. Just let me have something. Yes, shuffle off your mortal coil. The sweet embrace. It's the only thing I have control over at this point. Oh my god, there's a sick desperation in my laugh. Guess what? The guard is annoyed at me and refuses to speak with me. Doesn't want to look in my pockets, Just wants me to go away and leave him alone. He tells me to go to the main gate if I want to leave the district, but that I will be searched there. Tempting. But one of us proposes that we just leave the box on the ground and go back to our miserable, hungry lives. Another proposes that we yeet it above the wall. It's small and light. And of course, the GM says, no. I'm gonna do it anyways. How about that? And suddenly it is 10:59. GM says, we're gonna stop now because it's almost 11. They ask us if we're available the same time next week. Oh, wait, you're serious? Short, general silence. I'm asking if we could wrap this up in like 10 minutes, because this was only supposed to be one session, and it looks like we're finished pretty soon anyways. I could personally only stretch it another 30 minutes max. Game Master immediately gets very anxious. No. And then they suddenly speak very fast. Very fast. They stress the fact that they need to stop at 11 exactly. They need another session to make us get through everything. And then when 11 o'clock comes, they abruptly disconnect. Mid-discussion with a, sorry, I have to leave now. Like they were on a self-imposed parental control set at 11 o'clock. Or maybe they transformed into a pumpkin? It was just so weird. He is a weird guy. Maybe he does live with his parents. Is he super young? OP said at the beginning they're like 20s and 30s, but that doesn't necessarily guarantee that he doesn't live with his parents. Again, if that's the case, just be real. You don't have to be all vague and lie about everything. Whatever. I probably wasn't gonna ever interact with this guy again anyways. It just would have been nice if you could be honest with me and yourself, all right? So in the Discord chat, the group said no to any other sessions. Thank God for that. I took 10 minutes the next day to provide feedback to try and help them grow as a new game master. Not for me, not for them, but for their potential next table of players. To maybe suffer a bit less than we had this time around. You're the true MVP, OP. I have no idea how you got through that whole thing. I insisted on the importance of agency and collaboration with players and of shutting your GM mouth regularly to let the players, I don't know, speak and do things and to accept them and rebound on them, feedback to which they never answered. And that was my last interaction with them ever. I think the most frustrating part about this post is it doesn't really have an end as such. You know, you never find out what the hell the GM was trying to get across to the players this entire time. Lack of communication, it can really hurt. Obviously, this GM, yeah, he's new, but he's also not willing to improve. Or maybe he was too ashamed to reply to the feedback that OP gave him. But yeah, the first time doing anything is generally not gonna be too great, right? This railroading GM could practice his craft and really do some great world building, I'm sure. But instead, I think he chose to just get butt mad and disappear from the internet. Well, I'm never gonna GM any game ever again. Like, yeah, that's the way to fix your problem. Just never address it. Whatever. OP says, yo, yo! Hey, yo to you, gangsta.
Gangsters, what's up, guys?
This post titled Tabletop RPG Horror Story. Gosh, imagine that. I got me and my wife kicked from a D&D 5th edition group because I was outsmarting the DM and doing more roleplay than most of the rest of the group. So there's that for some reference, and this is why it happened, broken into multiple parts because Reddit can't fit the full story on one post. That's alright, YouTube can fit it all in one video. We were invited to play a D&D 5th edition game by a group that my wife found online. The game, as it was explained to us, focused heavily on the RP aspect in the Forgotten Realms setting, but with a little twist of the DM's own choosing. we were to start out at level 3 without any more gold than we would have starting at level 1, and the DM would provide one custom magical item for each character based upon our class and background, which ended up being advantage on skill checks with skills that we really ever got to use for myself and my wife, but not for the DM's longtime players, of course. These items would have 4 slots for magical gems that would give additional benefits that would be acquired over the course of the campaign. Yeah, okay, I guess. That's sort of to keep you hooked in. You didn't fill in all your slots yet. Don't you want to try it? Let's keep playing. When we joined up, the DM demanded that everyone had to use the D&D Beyond website to make their characters, and only the books everyone had access to in the group could be used. Turned out, though, that the DM's longtime players could also use things such as other races outside of those books, but me and my wife couldn't. Yeah, this is a book that I made and published on D&D Beyond, so actually, technically, it's legal that I could be a bird person. That's super awesome. I love bird people.
Yes, you're a bird and a person. I'm a bird and a person and more.
There was also a glitch in the D&D Beyond website where some classes wouldn't show up in the options when making characters, and we had to fight with the DM to allow my wife to play an Echo Fighter, a type of fighter that can create a double of themselves. Oh, that's hex. Because it was in one of the allowed books, but it wouldn't show up as an option for the class in the app. So yeah, that already started off the game in a real great place, but nevertheless we continued to go along with it because my wife really wanted to play some tabletop with the group, even if it was in a less fun D&D 5th edition game. Oh my god, what is your preference there, OP? You should tell me about that, goodness. I played a druid with a background of needing to visit all the druid circles in the world for mastery of the druid craft, as well as a secret revenge plot for the campaign's big bad evil guy, so the DM could work me into his campaign much more easily. Yeah, that's nice of ya. The group eventually consisted of a druid of the land, echo fighter, cleric with a deity outside of the books, paladin with no deity. Wait, what the fuck? Stop right there, paladin with no deity? I'll allow a lot of things, but like that is the whole source of his power. What are you talking about? Oh my god, I hate it. A rogue who couldn't decide on an archetype even when playing, Gloomstalker Ranger, and Totem Barbarian. Dude, that seems like a big group to me. What's the head count? 7 people? Holy shit, bro. No, I do like 3 or 4. That really seems ideal. Maybe 5, but 7 it's over the line. OP says this at first was well received until the other players learned that I'd taken support buff and debuff spells over damaging spells at the start of the game, and then the other long-term players decided to voice their opinions that I made a bad choice for spells and should switch them to more damaging spells. Bro, you're like one of those kids that plays Pokemon and doesn't realize the power of stat-changing moves, okay? One sword stance, I'm gonna sweep the shit out of everything. Like, it's much better to buff yourself rather than trying to burn down something, especially if the encounter is, more than just, whatever, cutting apart goblins. Something more complex, and a buff is always good. Whatever, idiots. My background and the Ranger's background allowed us both to be map makers / readers. I tried to roleplay that aspect, but the Ranger tended to ignore that and just see if there were maps to buy in town instead of, making one as we went along. Whatever. I got cash to splash, baby. The DM didn't like me making a map and tracking where the towns were in his game because eventually I did spot a story issue because he contradicted something he said before, and I had proof because I was making a map with notes taken during the game. Dude, that's so fucking hilarious. He didn't write it down. He expected you to forget, but you're out here, participating in the world, and he probably hates that more than anything. How dare you call out my my inaccurate statements? Let your ego go, man. Just accept that you fucked it up a little bit. Like, oh, my bad, bro. So the game starts, and it's going along interestingly, to say the least. Lots of role play for the characters to meet each other and become a group. Cool. The DM tells everyone they must do something of a performance, whether single or together, and role play it out for the first part of his game to introduce our characters. Oh, I love this parody song coming up! I help one of the other players make a performance check for their act, because our characters got along with each other, but apparently that wasn't enough for the DM, and my character still had to do a performance on his own. Oh yeah, sure. This is the most... I hope I'm getting awarded extra XP for the little fucking talent show we're doing. Can we kill some goblins now? So, even though the DM just lied about us being able to do it together, I say fine. And I make my performance check and actually roll high despite it not being a skill that I'm good in. Oh yes, luck of the draw. Did you actually fail the performance check? I think that's the only reason he had you do a solo one. Whatever. OP says I'm not good at making up stories in settings that I'm not familiar with, so I give a vague answer on the kind of stories that I tell, such as, I tell a story from my village of a folk talk which was passed down through the ages that involves, like, good and evil fighting it out, and good wins in the end, all while using prestidigitation to give a visual performance with the story. Well, the DM doesn't like me being vague like that, and so I have to come up with a far more detailed and intricate story on the spot in real life, or I automatically fail the performance check, which to me is BS because we're playing fantasy characters and it's not real life, but I try the best I can and eventually we move on because one of the long-term players was getting impatient. Yeah, clearly this story, you're not very good at telling them, but I want you to try and tell one. Maybe he's trying to get you out of your box, you know, but you just see it as a personal affront, and that's not the way that we grow. It is sort of like a weird way to go about it, too. But LP's like, me, he's bullying me. It's like, I don't know, dude. We have a way that we play, and if you want to play, then maybe get with it. Or fucking leave the table, you know, that's always an option, too. But OP doesn't want to do that because wife wants to hang out for some reason. We've already spent far too long here. Whatever, anyway. Fast forward a few encounters and we're at a boss fight with a skull that can control vials of acid to throw at us from the shelves. Neat. Everyone else is going after the skull, while I get the bright idea to attack the shelves of vials to hopefully negate its ability to attack us. I mean, yeah, once the vials are already shattered, then we're just ankle deep in acid, and what could possibly go wrong with that? One hit, and all the shelves break down, causing a tsunami of acid to hit every party member in the room, which me and my wife weren't in the room yet due to initiative rolls, and somehow doesn't come out the entry to the room where I was standing. It ends up killing the cleric, who's the best RP person so far in the group, instantly due to massive damage. He makes a new character that's a sorcerer, also top tier roleplay for this character when he plays it. For the loot after that, we find a bag of glowing stones with enough stones for one per party member. As players start reaching into the bag, the DM makes a secret roll. I thought this was the moment that we all get our first slot of our custom magical items enhanced with something useful. Wrong. This was a check to see if we got a magical stone for that very purpose, or a non-magical stone, basically worth nothing for characters of our level. Nearly the entire party got a magical stone, except for me and the now sorcerer because he wasn't around yet. I mean, you passed a check earlier that you shouldn't have passed, and then you failed this check, but you're like, oh no, this was the one that I'm gonna take personally. Maybe it's not all about you. Maybe he's rolling the dice and doing the things right. If he is fucking around, then yeah, you'll be able to put the pieces together. But I don't know. just blaming bad luck is probably fine. It's not his fault, truly. Anyway, we continue the game and get to a town and get some downtime, and I decide that I'm gonna go gather herbs and ingredients to craft some potions during this downtime, but the DM stops me and says that I can't do that without buying materials for the potions. Despite me being a forest druid in a location with plenty of herbs to craft potions, Apparently I need troll's blood in his game to craft potions, which isn't cheap, and there's not much of it, if any, in this town. Yet somehow, we can still buy at full price as many potions as we want. Yeah, that's the economy for you. I guess the DM missed the Forgotten Realms lore that trolls regenerate from a single drop of blood, but okay, whatever. OP dropping some knowledge bombs. Let me tell you guys about troll's blood. Actually, it wouldn't work like that. Actually. At this point, I know the DM is just against my character. Oh, God. I'm supposed to be the main character. How can I not get a magical stone, DM? That is so unfair. Yeah, against my character due to how I played, where I've been the sole person in the entire group trying to not kill everything outside of towns and actually converse, aka roleplay. Yeah, how's it going, little goblin friend? Oh, he stabbed me. That's usually how role-playing with enemies goes, isn't it? But OP tried to overcome encounters with intelligent beings in that way. But even the paladin is all about killing everything else, despite having smite good. Just bail on the group is my suggestion for you. You weren't cut out for this, it's not working out, that's fine. I'll go find somebody else who vibes a little more, who likes my roleplay style. Or OP wants to be like, I'm the best at roleplay, but also I don't know how to tell a basic story. Like, just say, I don't know, a magical potato went and fought a dragon or something like that, you know? Who cares what the story's about, truly? Does it have a good moral? No, fuck it. Neither does yours. But yeah, that's just how it goes sometimes. I guess we'll get into another story now. You got anything you want to say there, boys?
Me no know who dumber, man who try to outsmart God of Game, or God of Game who punish map making like it war crime. Very confused. Gubbins.
One hoards control like a dragon with daddy issues. The other roleplays a martyr complex into a fireball trap. Delightfully stupid on both sides. Dark Gubbins.
Delightfully stupid indeed. But we'll probably find something that's just as stupid as we move on into our next post. This one titled, My First DM is a Creeper. Yeah, that's a bad way to start out, you know. OP says, yo, yo! Hey, yo to you, gangsta.
Gangsters, what's up, guys?
This is my first post on this sub, and also storytelling, so I might not explain everything properly from the get-go, but I think the title says enough. I mean, hook me right in. To start off, I, 19 female, was a new player to D&D and found a post on r/LFG looking for players that were new to D&D. I messaged the OP, the DM, and I managed to join the campaign. I made a drow rogue assassin that was a bit abrasive and also a simp. Just think of a bard mixed with an assassin, and that's how she was. Yeah, sounds delightfully annoying already. Let's see what shenanigans you can get into. So at the beginning of the campaign, I never really noticed anything off, since as a new player, yeah, I wouldn't know if anything differed from other campaigns, which it definitely did, even unrelated to the stuff in this post. One of the players was an experienced player that was allowed to play. He and I became friends, and this is how I realized that something was very off, which he confirmed. Yeah, it's good to have some outside perspective. That DM might have gaslit the shit out of you, and you would never know unless someone was goodly enough to tell you so. The first thing that I want to mention is that my DM, 32 male, had a way of, for lack of a better phrasing, possessing the NPCs. He would essentially use the NPCs that my character found attractive to flirt with me, the player. Yeah, I mean, I probably wouldn't show my hand and find that NPC attractive. I'm not here to date NPCs. I'm here to kill goblins. The best way that I can describe it is that it was a bit too intimate, and it seemed geared much more toward me than the character. He would often get too into it in terms of detail. It's sitting at a table full of people? How many other people are here? What the fuck? And one of his rules was that he does fade to black when it comes to NSFW RP. That being said, I later learned that fade to black for him was just penetration. Well, thank you for fading the black there, but if we could go a little bit earlier, so we leave some mystique, I'd appreciate that. The first interaction that my character would have with her future husband involved excessive details about proclivities. I didn't really feel comfortable with these things, but I figured that this was what a regular fade to black was. Yeah, you tie each other up with some shibari ropes. It's normal and fine. It's 2025. You can't tell nobody nothing no more. My friend found out that this was how his fade to black went when we were in a solo together. The short version is that his character was spending the night at my character's home with their significant other. My character jokingly said that we should do a banging competition, which I obviously expected to get shot down. No! My DM was A-okay with that and continued to do about 10 minutes of in-detail roleplay, more so directed toward my character and her husband than my friends. This is really weird. I would have left this table a long time ago. What the fuck are you... I'm mystified. We both kind of jokingly mentioned that this was a bit much. Not jokingly. Put your foot down. Be like, what the fuck? What? I can't participate in this. I'm sorry. I'm not sorry. You should be ashamed. I'm not gonna feel ashamed for being fucking grossed out. That's the whole fucking basis of shame, you see. Whew. Anyway. The DM just kept repeating things like, hey, this is what you wanted. Or, I'm just the DM. You chose this. Needless to say, my friend was appalled and brought it to my attention that this was not normal. Yeah, not for, normal D&D. With Fatal or something like that, maybe. But you know that when you're rolling anal circumference for your character creation sheet, It shouldn't come as a surprise after that. But this, yeah, I expect it to be normal. Why isn't it normal? Another thing that my DM liked to do was to add on to our characters and pretty much control them however he wanted without actually taking them over. He would add descriptions and explain the characters' personalities to us, the players. He would do so either out of character or in character, but the one that I wanted to mention was one such comment he made in character as my character's husband. He liked to constantly mention that my character had this sexy sachet walk that he absolutely loved. Mind you, I have never described her walk or ever implied anything intimate about my character. It was just simply decided on by him. Now, that's when you throw the curveball. You're like, actually, my character's got a peg leg. She limps around. You like that? Is that sexy for you? Maybe so. Maybe he's into stump worship. Oh, no. Now I've done it. And I guess one could argue that he was using all this for building up the setting and the relationship, but I don't think that truly was the case with him. Oh yeah, and also, he commissioned an artwork of my character being pinned up against the wall by her shirtless husband, the one and only artwork he ever got commissioned as well. Yeah, that's more than a little bit sus. Is the character, the husband character, just something you made up and he's like, I'm gonna assume that role. This is perfect. I am mortified, but you also have my rapt attention. The next two things I'll put together, since they're not as important as the others. The first is that he definitely showed favoritism towards me. Only I was given pertinent information for the campaign, in character and out of character. I was also given double the amount of solos than everyone else without ever asking. He would constantly offer them to me, and no one else, unless he found it important to their character. The second thing is that I mistakenly told him that I wanted to play an MMO that I hadn't played in a while, and I barely played at that. And after that, he'd offered to play with me so I could understand it better and have someone to play with. At the time, I thought that was a fun idea and accepted. Dude, fatalist mistake ever. That MMO I remembered fondly, it's trash to me now because of you. After playing with him one time, he would ask later that day if we could keep playing, and then would ask me every day if I had time to play or if we could schedule a time. I'm a busy college student, so I didn't want to commit to anything. I had the time when I had the time, you know? Absolutely, I know. This is way too pushy. I hate that shit. After that, he'd randomly mention it and say, well, if you ever have the time to play, let me know. I wish I could say I recognized what was going on, but it didn't really click for me until I started talking to the other player. I finally left that campaign. I just wish I could have put the puzzle pieces together a little bit sooner. Yeah, before you invited him to play a game with you, to give him your information online and let him know where he could find you. That's the worst thing ever! The mistake of a lifetime! But yeah, creeper's gonna creep, and at 19, I think a lot of women don't see this coming, especially, I don't know, it depends how sheltered they are and stuff, but luckily, you know, OP still has some innocence left, and this guy was the first one to step in the line and take it away. And I gotta hate that a whole hell of a lot. But we're learning lessons, we're growing, we're moving forward, and we're moving into our next story. Honestly, if you made it this far in the video, you've got a stronger constitution than most, but this is something that'll scare you off for good. DM forces my character to go through a breeding factory. God, I hate this. I'm just, already, at the first title, I want to nope out, but we're here now. OP says, I'm no stranger to D&D. I've been playing at my local game shop with various DMs and parties for about 6 years now. But around a year ago, I unknowingly walked into what can only be described as the most unhinged fever dream of a campaign that I have ever experienced. See, I don't think things like this happen in game shops. Somebody sitting there and playing Fatal. I'm like, I don't know. But apparently, especially these days, things are only getting weirder, you know? Much like in our story. Our DM pitched the campaign as a dark, morally complex exploration of a dystopian fantasy world. Cool, I thought. Something gritty. Something Game of Thronesy. Yeah, by the time this is over, you're gonna be wishing for boob dragons. I rolled up a half-elf rogue, and session 1 hit the ground running. After we did our intros in the tavern and everything, we got accosted by a band of hobgoblins and their regular goblin slave. We were captured by an evil hobgoblin empire and sent to a labor camp. Oh no, I hate goblins! We gotta kill all the goblins. See, this is what I was looking for, but then, yeah, one finger curls on the monkey's paw. I've made a horrible mistake. During the second session, my character, Lyria, I'm a woman in real life and was in the campaign as well, was pulled aside by the guards for special processing. As it turns out, special processing meant that I was to be sent to the breeding factory. A factory where prisoners were forced to produce the next generation of alpha goblins to build an empire that would last 1,000 years. DM then leaned in, smirked at me, and whispered in my ear, Lyria's unique half-elf DNA makes her a prime specimen for the factory.
I just can't do it. I can't take this shit no more, man.
Thanks so much. Now I'm dying. He then showed me an AI-generated picture of an alpha goblin that supposedly took the best aspects of humans and elves to create a master race. Why does dark fantasy always gotta get weird? You know what I mean? I thought we were just gonna, like, you know, have to see a dead kid now and then, but this is just like, yeah, the deepest of dark depths, because that's what lives in your heart and your soul, and it won't be complete for you until you force other people to participate in it. And to me, that's sick. I'd like to drag you out back and put the fucking boots to you. Extra hard style, okay? Maybe knock this shit out of your brain, huh? Do something meaningful with your life, huh? Sitting there AI generating hobgoblins on your phone. You're the worst. You're the worst type of person. Okay, here we go. He then described the factory in excruciating detail. There were assembly lines, genetic analysis devices, gas chambers for specimens deemed unfit. Oh, God. And rows of prisoners. And those deemed fit were taken to a special room by a group of breeder hobgoblins. I hate this. Oh my God, why are we doing this? How do you wind it back from here? There is no winding it back. I'm not going to go into fully explicit detail. I will censor some of these things because holy shit. They would have their way with human, elf, and half-elf women. And he would describe the acts in the most graphic detail. This was the most animated that he got during the whole campaign, and he kept describing it as the sexy side of D&D, which really grossed me out. Yeah, for good reason. You're basically sitting there and playing tabletop with the worst fucking person in the world. You need to get away from this man right now. I tried to object in character, but DM shut me down with the classic, well, your character wouldn't be able to resist excuse. And he said that she was charmed enough by enough spells to make her enjoy it. So she's basically just a quote-unquote sack of holes for the goblins to use. Oh my God, I'm dying. Literally. My spine, I can't. Somebody help me. Oh, it's bad. It's really bad. I hate this. I told you I was going to kick it up at the last bit, though. If you made it this far, fucking truly one of the troopers. One of the best of the best. So yeah, he then had the audacity to pull out a chart labeled breeding success percentages and had me roll dice to determine my fertility. And that one meant that I died instantly from those activities, and a nat 20 means I became their mayor for the Empire. He then said, as long as you don't roll a nat 1, you can still go on quests while you're pregnant. Oh, gee, thanks so much. I can't wait to heave around a 9-month pregnant belly running away from bandits. Like, no, I don't think I can go on quests, as a matter of fact. At this point, OP does the right thing and gets up, nopes out of the entire session. The barbarian player followed, muttering something about needing ear bleach, while the DM kept yelling about how this is crucial to the story, and that you can come back for revenge if you want. I'm not afraid to kill off some hobgoblin breeders. It's a dark world. What did you expect? Some semblance of decency, you know? Just some beacon of light in a world that really doesn't seem worth existing in. Why would anybody want to stay here? Why would anybody choose that? I don't think that they would. I'm gonna go play something fun. Fuck yourself. No, says OP. Maybe for some people, but not for me. I just hope anyone who jumps into that shit show knows exactly what they're getting into. I mean, the deepest depths, the most horrible things that we've ever seen, ever.
Gubbins thought dark fantasy mean betrayal, war, maybe sad horse death, not. This goblin hentai war crime, me gonna leave now. Gubbins.
This isn't morally complex. This is someone's search history held hostage at the game table. Burn the dice. Salt the DM. GTFO. Dark Gubbins.
Oh my God, Dark Gubbins, you nailed it down. Let me tell you that much. And Gubbins has the right idea. I think it is time to wrap it up. Oh no, Annie. Annie's in on it too? Annie, are you okay?
You've been hit by a smooth criminal.
Shitty situation. Oh, good. This one's kind of gross, so I'm marking it as not safe for work. That's the thing that attracted me to it, I'll admit. For context, I had reached out to a local DM who was looking for players, whom I'll refer to as DC. Yeah, thanks, Sophie. I think DM will serve just fine. I needed at least one more player for my campaign, my first campaign, and they needed players for theirs, so I told them that they could meet my 3 other players and see if any wanted to join their campaign while also playing in mine. I also agreed to play despite not enjoying being a player. We play at my mom's business in a conference room outside of regular work hours. Yeah, thank God for that. That seems like a pretty chill setup, I'll be honest. It's nice of your mom to do that. So 2 weeks ago, DM shows up with their partner to play D&D. It's been about 6 weeks since the start of my campaign, and DM and said partner tended to get there hours early to chat. Mostly watch videos with their headphones on their phone. Weird, but okay. DM arrives almost 3 hours early, which is annoying, but at least they do allow me to prep in peace, so I don't mind. DM disappears shortly after arriving, saying something about the bathroom, and after about 20 minutes I check to make sure they aren't digging around in the business side of the building, because I barely knew DM and I hadn't had any time to build trust or rapport with them. I go back to sit and wait. Yeah, and good on you for keeping eyes out on Mom's business. Like, yeah, what the fuck is he doing back there? I see where you're coming from. About 10 minutes later, DM calls me out of the room and tells me, they clogged the toilet, but they've been trying to fix it. You just dropping loads in strange places, huh? But OP doesn't shame him at all. He says, okay, no problem. It's an old building, it's got old pipes, and I then go to check to see if I could possibly fix it. I find 4 very clearly not TP wipes floating in the water. So I go, DM, are those flushable wipes? And he says, yeah, toilet paper just doesn't get the job done. OP says, right, but those all have a warning label on the front to not flush them down the crapper. DM says, yeah, I know. I just didn't think it'd be a problem. Well, why would you possibly think it would not be a problem? Like, it's clearly labeled for a reason. This is going to be a problem if you do it. And he's like, it's not my building. Well, maybe you just met somebody with a sweet gaming setup and you just fucked the whole thing. You and your stinky bum. For the rest of the session, I proceeded to try and plunge the toilet in the woman's bathroom because there's only 2 men that work there and 10 women that do. Not to mention, most of the clientele for one of the renting businesses in the building are also women, so yeah, this is a massive problem. I don't think it's as big a problem as you're making it out to be, OP. You know, you set up a couple ice chests and you you just say go in there. Until the toilets are fixed, you go in there and you dump ice on top when you're done. And that's foul. I decide that there's only one course of action here, and that is to tell my mom what happened. Ah, fuck. She told me that due to the disrespect shown, DM was banned from the premises, and that DM would have to pay the plumber's bill for it. I decided that this would have to be the end of them and my campaign, and I booted them from the Discord, removed myself from theirs, and let them know what my mom had decided. I'll be honest with you, I don't think you're ever seeing that money back. Pay the plumber, bite the bullet, it is what it is. I got a lot of mixed messages back to me in some long letter-style text basically saying, OP, I wish you would have talked to me so we could figure out a new location, or figured out Skype or something to proceed with this, and trying to guilt me because I thought our friendship meant more than this. Well, that was your mistake, wasn't it? I basically responded, look, I don't really know you well enough to justify putting in all that effort, especially since it's my mom's building, and you disrespected it. Yeah, even if I do know you that well, I use my effort very selectively these days. DM then proceeds to make excuses, blames me for being hostile, and said, those wipes have always worked. You just have a bad septic system. And the list goes on, so I stopped responding. I've had about 20 people read through the messages, and they all agreed that I wasn't hostile or rude, just blunt. Yeah, I tell you, OP, blunt's the best way to be. Get your point across. Probably there might be some hurt feelings, but it's like, yeah, that's within you. That's nothing I did. Whatever. The fact that he would just, throw wipes in the toilet, atrocious. It's written on the package. Please, could you be a human being? You don't want anybody to look in the trash can and see the brownie fudge you made? And just little baby boy shenanigans. But I do love to see it, even if there's limited RPG involved in this one. How'd you feel about it, Gubbinses?
Me think pooper no just clog toilet. He clog entire friendship. Who show up 3 hours early just to commit plumbing war crime? Gubbins.
He got nothing better to do. He doesn't want to stink up his own house. He'd rather destroy a place of business. I don't think it's even fair to call it a friendship at a certain point. Like, he needed a warm body for a campaign, so he's like, I guess you'll do, Mr. Fudge Bottom. How do you feel about it, Dark One?
There are stains upon porcelain that time cannot wash, nor bleach absolve. The true monster of this tale is not the mess, but the arrogance that flush twice. Dark Gubbins.
I mean, yeah, just stop flushing it after a certain point. You're gonna overflow it everywhere, dum-dum. I guess we'll get into another story now. This one doesn't have toilet humor. I think it's serious, based on the title, but I hope that you'll still enjoy it in a different type of way. So let's get over it. This story, how my ex-boyfriend outed himself as an abuser through D&D. Yeah, he just got a little too real with the role playing, you know? You gotta put your moose antlers up if you want to speak out of character. Fuck. Content warning, slightly not safe for work, vague mentions of maltreatment, and a foolish 18-year-old girl making foolish 18-year-old girl mistakes. Yeah, I guess we see it a lot. Never hurts any less, though. So as a quick preface, I was raised by a very strange, crazy lady.
I was born a poor black child.
I was told that fantasy and sci-fi and comic books, basically anything not Barbie or Easy Bake, was not for girls, among a lot of worse stuff that may have something to do with why I was 18 dating a 26-year-old. So the second she was out of my life, I dove headfirst into all of it and maybe got a little bit obsessive. I mean, 18 dating a 26-year-old, people get crazy about the age gap stuff these days. She's an 18-year-old girl, she wanted to jumpstart her life, so she saw a 26-year-old dude that had some shit and was like, can I come along for the ride? And he's like, well, sure. That's just my theory, though. At some point, my boyfriend at the time ended up telling me that his friend of his wanted to DM a short beginner campaign for new players. Obviously, I was all in, but I had no idea how to proceed. The players were me, 17 or 18, ex-boyfriend, 26-ish, and DM in his 30s, plus one other player who I don't really remember that much of, but I do remember that he played a homebrewish monk. Yeah. So birds of the feather flocking together, that's what you're telling me. Who plays a monk? What is this? And it's the most OP class ever. The DM worked very closely with me on my character, an elf cleric of a homebrew religion. Her name was Asha, and she was very shy, quiet, and a nun-like character with immense amounts of devotion to her homebrew goddess. He had helped me to make a low-maintenance RP character who had very strong ties to the lore, the world, and the plan's plot. It was great for my personality, and honestly a very nice way to slowly wade into the waters of D&D, especially role-playing. Yeah, just my character's stoic as shit. He never talks, that's his character. And the DM also told me in private that I was going to be something of a MacGuffin, as Asha's goddess would commune with her through dreams and visions, but I would have the final say on what to share with the party, both in-game and out of character. Ooh, you get to be the chosen one, OP. This 30-year-old man is like, welcome to the game, 18-year-old girl. I want you to wade in slowly, but also you're central to the plot. and that's in and out of game as well. DM's gonna main character the shit out of this. Anyway, the basic plot was that a sect of Asha's religion was becoming a cult and warping the religion, so Asha's goddess sent her on a mission to squash the heretics. God, I love squashing heretics. Ex-boyfriend rolled a tiefling warlock, who he named after his own gamer tag. Let's call it 7.
What's in the box? What's in the fucking box? Give me the gun.
So Asha and Monk meet up, and they have the same goal. Turns out the cult has taken over the monk's temple and killed his best friend. Asha doesn't trust strangers who are not of her religion, but her goddess tells her to work with the monk. So, okay, cool. Yeah, I'm just whispering into your ear everything that you have to do. It's not railroading because it was spoken to you by a goddess you made up. Then we meet 7, OP's ex-boyfriend. Asha insta-hates him. He's a warlock and she's a religious fanatic. Monk convinces Asha to let the warlock join us, as he has some secret mission from his patron that at least somewhat aligns with Asha and Monk's. She doesn't like it, but she trusts Monk because her goddess said she should. OP seems to be doing some pretty good role-playing here, you know? Like, out of game, it would have been because I'm dating that person, but in game, I would be like, I like your shoes, let's go. We've got some fundamental differences, but you've got cool shoes. So, 7 instantly starts to hit on Asha. She's rejecting awkwardly, both in-game and out of character, but it's not too bad. Kinda makes sense that an evil warlock would get a kick out of making this goody two-shoes feel uncomfortable. I don't know if ex-boyfriend really understands the difference between in-game and out-of-game. There's a lot of overlap for him. We have a few fun fights, met a player character who Asha really likes and gets a great vibe off, but can't convince him to join us because I fail the charisma checks. She's mad shy and timid. As she's expressing this affection to the NPC, 7 gets mad and tries to steal from him in his own home. Asha gets mad and calls him out. I never said she was subtle. And instead of dropping the random thing he stole, 7 decides to attack the NPC. Yeah, it's pretty neat to date NPCs in the game. It's very non-committal. I like that better than, like, the person sitting across the table. Anyway, the guards get called, of course. The DM goes easy on us, and instead of TPKing us, he just has us kicked out of the city. Well, this is when 7 kicks it up a notch. He begins making much harder, stronger moves on Asha, and out of character, I'm beginning to feel really uncomfortable. I'm new to RP, and also at the time, I was very uncomfortable with PDA, so, yeah, this was not great for me. It's rough to watch. I wish you could put your hand up and just be like, yeah, stop being such a freak for just a second. I'm trying to have a nice time and you're fucking it all up. We make camp after a rough goblin encounter, and 7 immediately says that he wants to sneak into my tent. DM pauses and asks, why? Ex-boyfriend, I'm gonna fuck her. DM, Asha? I quietly and uncomfortably respond, Asha wouldn't do that. DM, yeah, then that's a no, 7. So Monk, ex-boyfriend, I sneak in then. DM takes a long pause. To talk to her? Ex-boyfriend, no, to sleep with her. DM takes a longer pause. Actually, Asha has sworn a vow of celibacy. I almost forgot. Sorry. This wasn't on my backstory, but it also wasn't far out of the realm of possibility. I did note on the backstory that she was somewhat prudish, so a vow of celibacy doesn't seem very much of a stretch. Yes, do protect your honor, ladies. Ex-boyfriend, so what? My character doesn't care about that. DM, so you're gonna force yourself on her? Ex-boyfriend, if I have to. Dude, this is... this is terrible. Have you been intimate with this man before? Is that why he feels entitled to the character that you've created? Still, I gotta say, red flags going up everywhere. I don't like this nut too much. And some people will say, oh, but ReddX, it's just a game. And yeah, on some level you're right, but on another level, like you're giving your mind permission to do these things. You know, who would even think about shit like this, except for a complete degenerate? We're playing D&D, not Fatal, okay? Anyway, ex-boyfriend is literally grinning as he admits this. Monk looks disgusted and shocked. DM just looks confused. I'm starting to feel myself shake and go into a panic attack. I can't say anything, I'm just focused on trying to breathe. DM, yeah, I'm not gonna allow that. 7 doesn't do that, just no. He pauses for a long time, takes his glasses off and rubs his face, and then he sighs and says, you know what, guys, I got a headache. Let's just end this session early. Yeah, forever. Put it on the fucking shelf. As we pack up, DM says he has a new dream for Asha, and it's the norm for us to discuss those in private, away from Monk and ex-boyfriend, so we move to a different room. DM gives me his wife's cell phone number and says to please call her if I ever feel unsafe. Oh, DM's awesome! I had him clocked all wrong. I feel like a shit now. He tells me that I have lots of friends who care about me, and that I don't have to put up with anyone mistreating me. When we get in the car, ex-boyfriend starts ranting about Monk, saying that when they were alone, Monk made a comment about how gross he had been. And the ex-boyfriend said his character was just as entitled to Asha's body as he was to mine. Yeah, see, you don't know the difference between in character, out of character. And really, it just shows a lack of respect for your partner. Entitled? I don't think that's the case. I think everybody should feel in the mood if we're gonna do that thing. Whatever. DM never invited us to another session. Yeah, put it on the shelf for real. I like this DM a lot. He's like, it's not worth the fucking heartache. This is bad D&D. Oh, my voice is cracking. I think I'm gonna get sick. DM and his wife did call a few times to check up on OP, which of course sends ex-boyfriend into rages. Just man-baby tantrums. Looking back on it, I can see that this game was the first time anyone had put to words what was happening in real time to me, and hearing it from an older man really began to fit the pieces together in my head how unhealthy that relationship was. And yeah, the things that he tried to do to my character were similar to things he did to me. It took a D&D campaign to make me and his friends realize how nasty he actually was. Yeah, like I'm saying, you're spilling all of your inside thoughts out. It's now no secret who you are or what you're about, and yeah, everybody here would like to not interact with you anymore. Please and thank you. This was about 6 or 7 years ago, but I've been thinking about this lately because a friend of mine has encouraged me to try out D&D again. This time with him as DM, and a male character inspired by a cross of Dick Grayson and a character from the Feist novels. Hopefully, second time's the charm. Yeah, maybe. You never know. TLDR, boyfriend at the time plays D&D with me, outs himself as a creep by trying to assault my character, loses the respect of his longtime friend. Yeah, that's one of the things I think I was talking about a couple days ago. Like, you don't really know how your bros act around chicks unless you see it, and then sometimes when you see it, you're just like, oh, holy God, I had no idea. And then you gotta do the right thing and be like, okay, deuces, I can't be seen interacting with all this. Anyway, P.S. Sorry if most of the horror from this story happens out of character. I think those are my favorites. But I only realized recently that this was when that horrible relationship started to crumble, and I'm only recently rediscovering my interest in tabletop RPGs, so the events have linked in my head, and I thought it would be cathartic to share. To anyone who cares, I'm a long time out of that relationship, and in a healthy one with a man of my own age, one with a lot more listening, respect, and care. Thanks for reading. Edit, wow, I'm blown away, etc., etc. Yeah, thanks so much. You're welcome. You're welcome. We took the ride with ya. And honestly, it's not really even that surprising to me. There's probably some people that would shrug it off and be like, oh, I don't know, he's just a creep. But, yeah, this proves that it's not birds of a feather. They saw something they didn't like about their friend, and they was like, okay, I gotta go now. And sometimes that's the best thing, you know? I do hope you get your shit figured out, but I can't be party to it, alright? That DM was a total Chad. I feel bad for clocking him wrong early on, but, you know, it is who you associate with, so sort of some connotation there. But I missed the shot on that. What can I say? How do you feel about it, Gubbinses?
Brain smoother than dice with no numbers, just rolls forever and always lands on no. He play warlock but act like mold and shower. Creep grow in dark and pretend it romance. Me smell festering hole where his soul should be. Gubbins.
Festering hole? I didn't know you could smell people's souls, for one. But yeah, if it smells like a festering hole, don't smell it any further. How about you, Dark One? Can you verify? Do you concur?
A hollow man in a rented ego, smelling of axe and unfinished apologies, entropy in cargo shorts, charisma dump stat, entitlement maxed, NPC energy with final boss toxicity, dark gubbins.
Gotta give the point to Gubbins on that one. Although, I really do like entitlement maxing. I'm trying to max out my entitlements. It's not going well! Do we have time for another one? I think we have time for another one. It's probably gonna be fine. Let's check it out and see what we get. Hell of a title, this one. Player attempts to seduce DM both in character and out of character. Causes complete collapse of gaming group and even an IRL breakup. Yeah, that's the one to talk about. TTRPG DRAMA. Well, guys, this is the only real horror story I have, and unfortunately it is one completely suited to Valentine's Day, although in an utterly twisted manner. Very not safe for work. I live for it, it's wonderful. The whole situation was bizarre, unexpected, and came completely out of nowhere, in a rapid and complete fiery implosion of the group that rivaled the Hindenburg in terms of suddenness and sheer scale of catastrophic collapse. God, you're really building me up for something here, OP. So sit back, dear reader, and indulge this tale of deceit, coercion, questionable sexual appetites, breakups, and of course, cringe. Lots and lots of cringe. Well, you know what the business is, baby. You know what I showed up for, honey. The cast consists of names changed, me, the DM, Dave, my roommate, playing a half-orc fighter, was not present for the session in question, which is still relevant later. Annie is Dave's girlfriend, she's playing a halfling cleric. Rich is a friend of mine and Dave's, playing a zany gnome sorcerer. Trish is the problem player, playing a foxfolk, reskinned tabaxi bard, because of course she bloody was. She could also never quite decide whether this person was more cat or fox or both. It was weird. That's the biggest problem that you have with them. I think more problems will soon become apparent. So we cast our minds back to the earliest days of yore, 2013. I was at university, and we were all playing 3.5 edition D&D. For context, I'm not really the typical nerd archetype. I'm fairly tall and muscular, and my biggest interest outside of tabletop RPGs, science, math, dirty movies, and video games is playing rugby, and I was on the uni team. I am, or was, being an adult sucks, something of a socialite. I like to host parties. I love being the center of attention. I love singing. In short, my highest IRL stat is charisma. My lowest, apparently, is wisdom. Yes, I'm a dude bro. Yes, the exact stereotype you're currently thinking of. That one. It me. I really don't think it is, but whatever we need to tell ourselves is fine. I'll give you your masturbatory paragraph, because I've been promised lots and lots of cringe, and sort of you're delivering, just not in the way I expected. And after one such get-together at my place, which was inevitably always a strange mix of guys from the rugby team, my course mates, I studied physics, and my flatmates and their mates, etc., myself, Dave, and Annie were talking, and I suggested the idea of running a D&D game, and they were both pretty into it. Neither of them had played before, but Dave informed me that our mutual friend Rich played, which I didn't know, and Annie said she had a friend that would be super excited to join because she was obsessed with tabletop RPGs. Enter Trish. Oh, yeah, Legbeard. How's your girlfriend hanging out with Legbeard? Where'd she pick this one up? Trish was the only person who attended that I didn't know, which naturally made her something of a wild card, but being the sociable person I was, this didn't bother me at all. And when I first met her, all seemed fine. She was lively and excitable. Her and Annie both did practical effects design, and she was artsy and enthusiastic with a real twinkle in her eye, which I would realize all too late was not a twinkle, but the barely perceptible electrical feedback which indicated the short-circuiting of the sanity wires in her brain. How tragic. You're painting a real sad character here. I won't feel bad for her for too long, I think. I thought she'd be a joy to have at the table, rolling dice with us. If only I had known the depth of the anime love interest complex that she apparently had. I might have realized that the rattling noise wasn't her dice tower, but the loose marbles rattling around inside her skull. Okay, I get it. Now make her do something, please. So anyway, from the very first section, the group was great, and everyone's character had fun, if a little tropey. This is why I didn't bat an eyelid at Trish playing up that bard and hitting on every NPC. We all had a good laugh about it, and I responded with NPCs flirting or not flirting in the exact same manner as they would with Dave's character, who often tried his luck, all to our amusement, with his -1 to charisma checks. Thus, I thought that it was all in good fun, and so did everyone else. Because nobody could be insane enough to think that imaginary characters interacting automatically means the DM actually wants to bone them IRL, right? I don't know. Fucking crazy people exist. You put it out into the world and people interpret it in all sorts of different and wacky ways. Anyway, I'm getting a little ahead of myself there. You think? There were some red flags. Minor ones by the standard of this Reddit, to be sure. These included things such as Trish being a little obsessive about anime and talking about her perfect man being an exact description of some protagonist from a particular anime, the name of which I don't remember. There was also the way in which she described her tabaxi, complete with big, innocent doe eyes, and playful curves, and swaying hips. She also showed up wearing fox ears at one point. No, I get the fox ears gotta go. Opie says, I thought she was just really getting into the game and playing into her character, which in a really disturbing sort of way was right on the money. Yeah, you've gone too far. I need you to turn back now. She also had a weird habit of maintaining eye contact with me for uncomfortably long periods of time, but I, with my IRL dump stat and wisdom, didn't put it together that she might have a crush on me, in case where this story is leading wasn't horrifyingly obvious already. Bro, did you bang a legbeard? That's what I want to know. Check out the shirt over our fourth wall. I appreciate ya. I'll pin it in the comment or something if I remember. So yeah, I was enjoying the group and the immersion. Everyone spent a lot of time talking in character and getting really into it, including Dave and Annie, who had been a little hesitant about roleplay at first. Trish spent almost no time whatsoever talking out of character, another mild red flag that I overlooked entirely, but one that stands out from the rest in this little retrospective. And so, dear reader, begins the fateful night. What a terrible night to have a curse. Note that Dave, my roommate, was not present for this session. Yeah, we did note that already. Is that how it comes up? What the fuck? The night is dark and full of fox-eared discomfort, friends. It was a heavy RP session. The previous one had been a sizable combat session with one of the villains, and a small side story arc had been completed, so there was lots of looting and paying off debts and favors and collecting accolades and drinking in bars and being paraded around on the shoulders of the liberated villagers, all those normal tropes. This also coincided with the end of our second-year exam period, so we were IRL in a similar mood. Are we playing drunken D&D? That sounds really fun, actually. Hit me with another beer, G-Barkeep! Everyone's having a good time in a low-pressure session, drinking a decent amount, both IRL and in-game. Hell yeah, bro. Everyone was smiling and having fun. Trish's character decided that tonight was the night to try and get it on with the burly human bartender NPC that she'd been flirting with throughout the campaign whenever they'd been in town. Again, I only picked this up in retrospect, but this was the NPC who most closely, although truly not even that fucking closely, resembled me in how I had described them, and she had singled this NPC out repeatedly. I guess this whole story is just about, like, yeah, this legbeard wanted to bone me one time. Which I have a story similar, but I haven't written it or told it because I feel that it would come across as douchey. And this OP does come across as a little bit douchey. I'd like to say he's drawing lines that aren't there, but I guess we'll have to see how the whole thing ends. Anyway, in the revelry of the villain's defeat and the town's celebration, she succeeded on her seduction role for this poor bartender. I made a joke about them going off to have, quote, very scratchy cat intimacy for which the bartender will probably need his back bandaged. And I attempted to fade to black. Yeah, that's a good shit. Okay, we know what's gonna happen there. Congratulations, you did it. But she's gonna be like, no, you have to describe it to me. Actually, no, I don't. Actually, why don't you get the fuck out of here? Trish wasn't having any of that. Obviously, she wanted to vicariously play out this encounter between these two abstractions in a display that would have made Sigmund Freud himself make the concerned Tom face. She interjected, describing how her character waited for him to go and get her drinks before taking off all her clothes, changing into just one of his thin shirts and waiting on his bed in a seductive pose as she began to purr. Meow! Okay, a little too much detail there. And she has this creepy, lascivious look in her eyes while she describes it, but fine. She's had a couple of drinks and is getting way too into it. I once again try with, and as he sees you, he shuts the door behind himself with a smile. Anyway, back at the bar, Clumper dunks in the midst of his absurd levitating tankards performance when Trish again interjects, pouting a little this time. She describes how her character stares into his green eyes. My eyes are green. The NPC was described as having blue eyes, and runs her clawed fingers through his brown hair. Again, you guessed it, matches description with me, not the NPC, and she's now positively leering at me like I'm a cartoon steak. Rich catches onto this and looks about as uncomfortable as I feel. Annie is giggling, and I assume that this was just nervous laughter, but that was not so. Oh no, Annie! Annie's in on it too? Annie, are you okay?
You've been hit by a smooth criminal.
I quite firmly cut to black this time, but Trish looks oddly satisfied and spends the rest of the session, which lasts less than 30 minutes, just staring at me and exchanging looks with Annie. Oh, there's something dastardly brewing here. What the fuck is all this? At the end of the session, I'm sat with the three of them, finishing drinks before they all head home. Trish asks to use the bathroom and excuses herself. Annie then gets up and declares she's going home and asks if poor, innocent bystander Rich will walk her across campus. They abruptly leave. I wait for Trish to come out of my room for 5 minutes. Oh no. I sleep on the couch tonight, I guess. At this point, I'm like, if she's taking a dump in there, that is such an absolute piss take. Just wait until you get home. So I walk into my room, preparing to knock on the bathroom door, and what do I fucking see? I see Trish, and what, dear reader, do you expect that she's wearing? Yeah, one of your thin shirts and a seductive pose as she's meowing on the bed. It's not great. I don't like it too much. Yeah, that's right. There's a pile of her clothes and underwear at the foot of my bed, and her sole item of clothing is one of my t-shirts. And also the fucking fox ears. Well, it wouldn't be complete without that. She was lying there in what she apparently thought a seductive pose was supposed to look like, if the only time you'd heard the word seduction was in Japanese and the sentence ended with senpai. And as if the scene wasn't absurd and insane enough, she fucking purrs at me before giving me this look which basically amounted to her stuffing as much of her bottom lip under her teeth as is reasonably possible in what appeared to be an attempt to devour her own chin. And she was blinking rapidly, like she was trying to convey something in Morse code. Oh, that's not doing anything for you? Does she need to purr some more? What a dumpster fire. Now, Trish is not an unattractive woman by any means, even in the midst of a mating ritual considerably more bizarre than anything I've heard Sir David Attenborough narrate, but yeah, I'm absolutely not into her whatsoever. I don't see her in that way, and honestly, I find her a bit weird. Shocking, I know. She probably gets that a lot. This should probably be a good enough reason all on its own, but what takes this from just uncomfortable and awkward to shockingly inappropriate is, at this time, I had a girlfriend, which she and everyone else at the table knew. Well, the girlfriend wasn't mentioned in the cast list. That's a big reveal right there, you know? Changes up some things, especially if Annie's in on it. God damn it, Annie. Don't encourage Trish to do these things. What? Why? Annie's the devious sort. I know her. At this point, I'm standing in the doorway, probably looking like I've seen a fucking ghost, and my brain is turned to mush trying to decipher the incomprehensible spectacle unfolding before my eyes. She then stops deep-throating her chin and says, "If you want your shirt back, you'll have to take it off of me." I'm now legitimately pissed off with her for this level of inappropriate behavior. I tell her as calmly as possible that she can keep the shirt, but she needs to leave. She scowls at me, and I truly wish I were joking, hisses at me like a cat. You know the reason is because you're weird like this. Now please go. Despite how deeply uncomfortable and annoyed I am, it is an act of such sheer, abject absurdity that I can't help but burst out laughing. She immediately loses her shit, of course, grabs her clothes in a bundle and runs outside my flat in just my t-shirt, not stopping to even put on undies, screaming at me the entire way. Yeah, that chick's a fucking maniac. Why you set me up like this, Annie? I blame Annie for the whole thing. No, it's Trish's fault for going through with it, but I think she was gassed up by somebody. Apparently either Annie or Rich had forgotten something, so they're about 100 meters away walking back toward the flats. They and everyone else around see this 2/3 naked cat fox woman throwing a hyper tantrum over getting rejected, creating an utter spectacle in the quad, which is overlooked by several blocks of halls, not to mention other students who just happened to be outside. I would have been mortified if I wasn't too busy being somewhere between utter speechless disbelief and repressing uncontrolled mirth. I mean, hell of a show, you know? This is why we're paying that 6-figure tuition. Probably, who cares? Annie runs over and throws her coat over the now hysterically crying Trish, and then starts berating me herself, calling me selfish and ungrateful, and telling me how Trish is better for me than my then girlfriend. She's evil. I'm in utter shock and disbelief at this point, because this is totally out of character for Annie, not knowing what to do in the midst of this bizarre and mutually humiliating meltdown. I just give an apologetic wave and grimace to Rich, and then go inside and close the door. That's all we can do. Just try our best to forget. I call Dave and fill him in on what the fuck just happened. He's as baffled, shocked, and angry as I am, especially after I describe Annie's reaction. He calls her and demands to know what is going on. As it turns out, Trish and Annie had concocted the events of the evening together. Annie had informed Trish that Dave would not be present, making it a good night to make her move. And Trish had apparently described the rest of her cringe-inducingly misguided plan. That's also why Annie was giggling at Trish's in-character shenanigans earlier this night, and why she had so abruptly convinced Rich to leave with her when Trish had asked to use my bathroom. This, it seems, was the signal. These girls gotta be so deluded. Like, what? What on God's green earth would make you think this would ever work? Dave called me about 2 hours later. It was almost 4 a.m. by this point, and he said that he had a huge argument and a shouting match with Annie over the phone and that they had broken up. I received a text from Rich the next day saying he didn't want to play with us anymore because he couldn't handle the drama, although I explained to him that Trish would absolutely not be there again, I couldn't really begrudge his decision to leave with such a sour taste in his mouth. I blocked Trisha's number almost immediately after she left, and the only correspondence I had with Annie was a text from her that just said, "See you next Tuesday," before I blocked her too. Dave and I never played D&D together again, though we still are friends to this day, so that's it, Reddit. My one and only horror story, and most of it had absolutely nothing to do with the actual game. Yeah, as we like it. Sometimes the creepy predatory weirdo isn't a basement-dwelling neckbeard, but a pretty girl of half your size and more screw-loose than a piece of IKEA furniture that your grandma tried to put together, who apparently thinks acting like a anime cat fox woman is just the height of seduction. Yeah, she's been poisoned. She's been poisoned in a lot of different ways. And I'm glad you didn't do it, you know? Even if you were single, like, there's something to be said for not sticking your dick in crazy. That's what I know. She's just, yeah, a little much. And once you give her some, it's gonna be a little much more. Not a ride I'm willing to take, I'll tell you that much. How about you, Gubbinses? Would you give the cat fox lady a swing or not?
Me give ride, no. Me give pamphlet on consent in a broom to sweep up dignity crumbs. Ears clip on, boundaries real, go home and pet your delusion. Gubbins.
Okay, so that's a no. How about you, Dark One?
I do not chauffeur catastrophe. Seduction by his is public transport to restraining order. She seeks a carriage of sin, receives a cab of consequences. Meter starts at respect. Fair, unpaid, dark. Gubbins.
What the fuck was that? It was like a public transport version of what we were talking about? I didn't mean like literally, would you give her a ride? Would you give her a swing? Whatever, it's fine. We're close enough. Unanimously, no. Everybody says no, myself included. And thank goodness, we're all learning better. I hope you guys did enjoy the episode, though. Check out the Patreon and YouTube memberships if you want. We're on Spotify, iTunes, all types of podcast services. I did plug the fourth wall this time around, but you can check it out if you want to see some of the merch. And thank you guys so much for watching, of course. I hope you all always remember you are loved, you are worthy, you definitely deserve it. And I shall see you in the next one. So until then, bye-bye.